Welcome to r/entitled people, where an unhinged Karen really doesn't like coloring books. Karen demands I stop coloring in the waiting room. My therapist told me to start writing things down when I get stressed out, so here I am. This literally happened yesterday at my doctor's office, and I'm still kind of shaking from how weird it all was. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I had to go in just for a regular annual checkup. I've got super bad anxiety when it comes to doctors, so I always bring a backpack with stuff to keep me distracted. Last week, I bought this Disney coloring book at Target and some colored pencils. When I walked into the waiting room, it was almost completely empty. There were only 2 other women sitting there, completely on opposite sides of the room. I picked a chair that was kind of in the middle, but a little closer to one of them. I pulled out my book, flipped to a page of The Little Mermaid, and I just started coloring Ariel's hair. After a few minutes, I noticed the woman sitting closer to me kept shifting around in her seat. Every single time I looked up, she was glaring right at me and looked so annoyed. I figured she was just judging me because I'm a grown adult coloring in a kid's book, so I just tried to ignore it and kept going. But then she suddenly goes, "Can you stop that?" I totally froze. I looked around to see if she was talking to someone else, but it was just us. I was really confused, and I asked her, "Stop what?" She huffed and said, "That noise. It's really annoying." I literally didn't know what to say to that. Like, it's just the sound of a pencil on paper. I absolutely hate confrontation, so my brain just completely short-circuited, and I couldn't even force words out of my mouth. The woman just kept staring at me while I sat there frozen. Her eyes felt literally terrifying. They were this piercing light blue color that felt like they're burning right through me. She felt like a White Walker from Game of Thrones, and it made me feel completely and unnaturally scared. I managed to mumble out a quick sorry, grab my phone out of my bag, and I tried to act like I was busy texting someone. I left the coloring book open on my lap because I was too scared to even move to put it away. About a minute later, the other woman who's sitting all the way across the room got up. She walked straight over to where I was sitting, stopped right in front of my chair, and said, excuse me." She walked straight over to where I was sitting, stopped right in front of my chair, and said, excuse me." I looked up, ready to cry because I was so embarrassed. But the second woman just turned right toward the blue-eyed lady and said, really loudly so the front desk could hear, "Are you seriously complaining about the sound of her coloring? You can't be serious." The old woman's face went completely bright red, and she looked like she was about to explode. She started stammering about how it's a medical facility, and she has a headache, and people shouldn't be making scratching noises in public. The second woman didn't care at all. She just walked over to her own bag, pulled out a massive, cheap plastic clicky pen, sat down right next to the Karen, and just started aggressively clicking it over and over again while staring her dead in the eyes. I was trying so hard not to laugh out loud, but the tension in the room was insane. The old woman looked at the nurse at the front desk like she wanted her to do something, but the nurse was just pretending to type on her computer and totally ignoring the whole thing. Finally, the Karen grabbed her purse, stood up, and literally stormed out of the clinic entirely, giving up her appointment just to get away from the clicking pen. As soon as the door slammed shut, the second woman looked over at me, stopped clicking the pen, and just goes, "Anyway, Ariel's hair looks really pretty. You should finish it." It's been replaying in my head over and over. How the kind woman who stuck up for me wasn't afraid of her at all. My brain can't really comprehend it, but I would give anything to be that fearless. I've always felt like a mouse when I'm around people who are loud and rude. Anyone have any advice? And to that woman, if you ever read this, thank you. The world needs more people like you. Honestly, OP, don't beat yourself up for freezing. Your brain went into a literal freeze response because that lady was acting unhinged, and freezing is just your body's way of trying to keep you safe when a situation feels dangerous. Being fearless doesn't mean you never get scared. It just means you practice speaking up even when your heart is pounding out of your chest. A good trick for people like us who hate confrontation is to just ask a question back instead of defending yourself. Next time someone says something rude, just say something like, "Why would you say that out loud?" Or, "Are you okay?" in a completely flat voice. It instantly puts the awkwardness right back onto them, and it breaks your own freeze loop. Shout out to the clicky pin hero though. She is an absolute legend. I'm exactly like you, OP. I turn into a puddle the second anyone gets aggressive or rude in public. My face gets super hot, and I can't even think of words until like 3 hours later when I'm in the shower. It's totally normal to feel that way around people who have zero shame about making a scene. But honestly, people like that Karen are just looking for an easy target to dump their bad day on. And the second someone actually matches their energy like that second woman did, they completely crumble. So the next time some wild Karen takes you on in public, you just need a really good comeback to flip the awkwardness right back onto them. Right. As a former Karen myself, I can attest to this. One good comeback will send us flying back to our evil lair like a crying toddler. Just start slow clapping and stare at her. Then tell her that the character she's playing is flawless, that she's got this villain thing down tact. Or just whip out your phone and record them. Sometimes recording devices have this magical ability to make very naughty people suddenly stop misbehaving. But how about that clicky pen lady though? If you loved her as much as we did, then smash that like button and drop a comment below with your favorite way to handle a public tantrum. Really, I think we should all be learning from each other. My boyfriend of 4 years is independently wealthy, but wants to split all of our expenses evenly. I'm 26 and he's 28. My boyfriend and I first met 5 years ago while we were both in school. We started dating not long after, and for most of our relationship, I thought we were pretty similar financially. In reality, he comes from a very wealthy family. They paid for his entire education, both undergrad and graduate school, and have basically funded his life from the beginning. I didn't know any of this until around 3 years ago. Me, I come from a solidly middle-class family. My parents helped me when they could, but I also worked while I was in school, and I've been fully supporting myself since graduating. When we first started dating, we more or less split everything evenly. We each paid for our own dinners, movie tickets, chipped in for gas on road trips, all of that. Nothing felt unusual at all. He never once mentioned money or his family's financial situation. Then, after about a year together, I met his parents, and I slowly figured it out. At first, I was a little annoyed. We were still doing frozen pizza on the couch in my tiny apartment while he had access to resources I couldn't even imagine. Still, I loved him, not his money, so I moved on. I told myself it was his business, his money, his choice. I also assumed it would change once he finished school and became more independent. But it didn't. We live together now, and I've learned that his parents have no intention of cutting him off. He works, yes, but even without that, he has family money and future inheritance that would keep him comfortable for a very long time. I work too. I make decent money for my age. I'm not struggling to survive or anything like that. I just make significantly less than he does, and I definitely don't have some wealthy grandparents leaving me half the world someday. This is where the problem starts. My boyfriend lives pretty modestly overall. He buys nice clothes and nice things for himself sometimes, but otherwise he keeps things simple. Our apartment is one we can afford to split 50-50. Same with the furniture, same with utilities. None of that bothers me. I do believe relationships should feel balanced. But then there's everything else. His sister got married in Maine at the end of May, which meant a 6-hour flight for us. He fully expected me to go. I wanted to go too, especially since his sister and I get along so well, and I genuinely consider her a friend. I wasn't just tagging along as some random plus one. Still, I paid for my own plane ticket, plus half the hotel, half the food, half the rental car. It was a huge strain financially. Paying even just my flight took a huge chunk out of my savings. If he had covered my ticket or even just the rental car, it would have made a huge difference to me and barely registered for him. Then there's the dog. When we moved in together, he brought his dog. I truly love this dog. I love having him around. We both care for him equally now. Whoever wakes up first feeds him. Whoever gets home first walks him. He's become part of our routine. So over time, my boyfriend started calling him our dog, and the expenses just quietly got folded into our shared budget. Food, vet visits, and supplies are split evenly. And while part of me understands it, another part of me just keeps thinking, if we weren't together, this would still be his dog. If we ever broke up, the dog would absolutely go with him. Meanwhile, I'd have spent thousands over the years helping pay for an animal that I never planned on getting this soon. Then groceries. This one gets to me more than it probably should. He'll talk about how he wishes we could buy nicer groceries from specialty stores or nicer cuts of meat or better wine. He'll complain that we can't afford it. What he means is I can't afford half of it. I've told him plenty of times that if he wants nicer groceries, he can buy them. We'd both enjoy them. I'd happily cook and eat them. His response is always that groceries are shared, so we split them, and he knows I can't afford my half. Which, okay, at least it's consistent. Still frustrating. Lately, he's been talking about moving into a nicer apartment too. He's toured places and leaves printouts for me to find on the kitchen counter or on top of my lunch before work. Technically, I could afford them. Realistically, no. Rent at that percentage of my income makes my head hurt. I'm 26 and trying to save. I'm trying to be smart. I want savings before I hit the stage of life where I'm thinking about buying a house or starting a family. I told him that if he wanted to split it more like 60-40, I'd be open to moving somewhere nicer, but he refused. And this is where I feel stuck. I don't want to be the girlfriend asking for expensive gifts or a lavish lifestyle or for him to bankroll my life. That's not what this is. I'm not asking him to buy me jewelry or luxury handbags or fund my shopping trips. I just feel frustrated that we live like broke recent graduates when we don't actually have to. If he wants specialty groceries, why not buy them? If he wants a nicer apartment, why not cover the difference? If I'm working late, I don't think it's crazy to ask him to go pick up shampoo, toothpaste, whatever, and not ask me to pay him the $4 back. I'd be happy to do the same for him. We've been together for 4 years. We live together. Most of what either of us buys benefits both of us anyway. I was raised in a home where money was shared pretty openly, so maybe I'm just having a hard time adjusting to how separate he keeps things. He says after marriage, we'd merge finances. We've even talked about having a joint account for major expenses with separate personal accounts for smaller things like haircuts or dinners out with friends. In theory, what's his would be mine and vice versa. I just don't understand why that line starts only after a wedding. Why wait another year or two for basic flexibility? What worries me most is the future. I want marriage someday and kids too. What happens then? If we have kids and private school would be the best option, does it not happen because I can't afford half? If one of our kids needs a specialist or a more expensive doctor, do we go with the cheaper option because I can't split the bill evenly? I'm not saying we need to live lavishly. I just wish everything didn't have to be exactly 50-50 when we're not financially equal. Am I being unreasonable here? He seems to believe that a household should live according to whatever the lower earner can afford. I keep feeling like there should be more flexibility than that. You're not asking him to fund your life. You're asking for fairness. There's a big difference between equal and equitable. 50-50 only works when both people are standing on the same financial ground. If one person can comfortably spend and save while the other is stressed every month trying to keep up, that isn't balance. What really stood out to me was him wanting more expensive groceries and nicer housing than expecting you to stretch yourself to make that happen while he keeps his own finances untouched. That puts you in the position of stretching your budget to keep up with the things that he wants, while he feels little to none of that pressure himself. That wedding trip would have bothered me too. You weren't some random +1 tagging along. You were his long-term girlfriend attending his sister's wedding. Covering your ticket and hotel would have meant a lot to you and very little to him financially. The dog situation feels similar. Loving the dog doesn't automatically make the financial responsibility equal, especially when it was his dog before you lived together. The bigger issue here isn't groceries or rent. It's what this says about how he sees partnership. Money disagreements usually aren't about numbers, they're about values. If he's this rigid now while dating, it makes sense that you're wondering what marriage, kids, or bigger shared expenses would look like later. You may not actually disagree about money itself. You may disagree about what building a life together is supposed to mean. Update the next day. It's been a long afternoon. He got home earlier than usual because he had a dentist appointment and came straight home afterward. I had my whole little presentation ready by then. I had spent most of the morning thinking through what I wanted to say and trying to organize it clearly. I told him I didn't think things felt fair anymore, that some of the financial decisions we had been making together were starting to create real stress for me, and that I hoped we could figure out some kind of middle ground that felt better for both of us. I explained that I wasn't asking him to support me or fund my life. I just wanted a system that reflected the reality that we earn very different amounts and don't have the same financial pressures hanging over us. I brought up the groceries, the apartment listings, the travel expenses, and how difficult it's been trying to keep up with these things that he wants while staying inside my own budget. The conversation didn't last long. I said everything I'd planned to say. He listened quietly the whole time without interrupting. Then, as soon as I was done, he said he wouldn't budge on the 50-50 split. He said that's how it would stay until we were married, and it wasn't something he was willing to compromise on. I asked if there was any room at all for flexibility, even just percentage-wise based on income. He said no. I told him that if that was truly how he felt, I didn't know if I could continue this relationship. He said if that was how I felt, then that was what it was, since he wasn't changing his mind. He did say we could get married very soon if it was really that important to me, but by that point, I was already done with the conversation. I'm not going to rush into marriage before I'm ready to just to solve a budgeting problem or feel more financially secure. That felt wrong to me from every angle. So he took the dog for a walk, and while he was gone, I packed. I called a coworker who has a truck and asked if he could come help me move some things. He came over and helped me load up what I could carry today. By the time I was ready to leave, my ex-boyfriend was back. That's when things got strange. He handed me a check. Apparently, while I was packing, he sat down and calculated exactly what he believed that he owed me. Our apartment lease is prepaid through the end of August, so the check included my half of that. He'd also estimated the portion of groceries in the apartment I wouldn't be around to eat, plus what he believed I had spent on dog-related expenses over the course of our relationship. He added it all up and wrote me a check. So I guess he was fair to the very end. I took it. I told him I'd be back Friday to pick up the rest of my things. For now, I'm staying with a good friend who had an extra bedroom available. I'm exhausted, sad, and still kind of in shock. This obviously didn't go the way that I thought it would. I went into the conversation hoping we'd work out a better system. Even something small would have been enough. A little flexibility. A little acknowledgement that things weren't feeling balanced. Instead, it became very clear, very quickly, that this wasn't really about groceries or dog food or rent percentages. We just see money, partnership, and shared life very differently, and neither of us was going to move enough to meet the other in the middle. I don't think he's a bad guy. I know a lot of people are going to say that, and maybe I'm too close to it right now, but I wouldn't have stayed with him for nearly 5 years if he was. I really did love him. I think he loved me too. I also think his views around money and relationships were shaped long before I met him, and they run deeper than I realized. He wanted things I couldn't afford. I told him many times that if he wanted those things badly enough, he could pay a little more and have them, or we could split things evenly and live within what I could comfortably afford. He didn't want either compromise. He wanted 50-50 and the nicer lifestyle at the same time. And eventually, that left me feeling stretched thin while he stayed perfectly comfortable. That's where I hit my limit. So no, things didn't go how I planned. I'm not happy it ended this way. I'm heartbroken, really. At the same time, I'm grateful I figured this out now and not a year from now while shopping around for a wedding dress. The check is somehow the most on-brand ending possible. He really sat down with a calculator and reimbursed you for groceries, dog expenses, and prepaid rent like he was closing out a business account. Cold? Maybe. Weird? Absolutely. At least it gave you a very clear final answer. You asked for a compromise, and he responded by calculating the balance down to the dollar. You brought him a relationship problem, and he approached it like a financial transaction. I'm really sorry, OP. It sounds like this wasn't really about money in the end. Money was just the thing that exposed a much bigger difference in values. You wanted partnership with room to adjust when life wasn't equal. He wanted a strict system with no exceptions until marriage. Neither view is automatically wrong, but they're incredibly hard to build a life on together when they're this far apart. I keep thinking about the check. After 5 years together, living together, planning a future, after a breakup conversation where you were probably crying and packing your things, he sat down and itemized groceries, dog food, and prepaid rent. Maybe he meant it as fairness. Maybe he meant it as closure. Maybe it was even his version of kindness. Still, there's something so sad about one person walking away heartbroken and the other walking away doing math. Well, glad you didn't waste any more minutes with such a cold and literally calculating jerk. Good luck. So let me get this straight. A 5-year relationship ended and homeboy was like, "Before you go, here's reimbursement for the kibble." Right. He processed that breakup like he was closing out a Venmo request. He really turned their breakup into bookkeeping. She packed her bags and he balanced the ledger. My love interest, who's 25 female, turned down a second date with me, 27 male, because I'm flaky. Should I fix this or is she crazy? Hey Reddit, I'm a bit stumped here. I went on a date with a fantastic girl about 3 weeks ago. She's gorgeous, brilliant, quick-witted, kind, and one of those people who somehow makes conversation feel effortless. I'm very interested in her. Our first date went really well. After that, we texted on and off for the next couple of weeks. Nothing constant, but enough that it felt like we were really connected. We also ran into each other at a party during that time. We didn't spend the whole night together, though we flirted a bit when we crossed paths. Toward the end of the night, I saw her talking to another guy, and I didn't want to come across as clingy or territorial, so I just left without saying goodbye. Then, last week, she initiated texting with me. We went back and forth for a while, and it felt playful and easy like it always does. She replies quickly, jokes around, keeps the conversation going. I asked if she'd be interested in seeing me again the following week, and she said yes. So on Sunday, we talked about going out. She said she'd be into it and even asked if I had free time in the next couple of days. I told her I had a client meeting Monday and would know my schedule better after. Work has been chaos lately. Between that, my friends, and everything else, the week just got away from me. Then, this morning, 5 days later, I texted and asked if she wanted to go out Saturday. She sent this back. I'll paste it verbatim. Hey, hope your week has been going well. Listen, I've been giving our situation a lot of thought. While I was very interested in you after our first date, I don't know that I want to go out with you anymore. You've been giving off sort of flaky and uninterested vibes. Normally, I would ride this out and just see what happens, but at this point in my life, I don't have time for a lukewarm friendship dating situation. I'm incredibly busy at work, with family and volunteering, and I just can't budget time for someone who disappears in the middle of conversations and can't plan in advance to see me. I'm sorry, I really did like you, but I've just lost interest based on the last few weeks. I don't see us as compatible based on my expectations of people in my life. I was floored reading that. This felt like it came completely out of nowhere. We had been talking, we had a good date, she seemed interested. I didn't want to come on too strong or move too fast. I got out of a 3-year relationship in late September, and I wasn't planning to jump right back into anything serious. I've been trying to get my life back into order, reconnect with friends, and not rush into a relationship just because I met someone great unexpectedly. That's part of why I took it slow. I thought more space between dates would keep things casual and let us get to know each other without suddenly feeling like we were headed towards something serious within 2 weeks. I'm not ready for a girlfriend immediately. At the same time, I thought she was awesome, and I didn't want to miss my chance to get to know her. Looking back now, maybe I misread all of this. I didn't ask to see her in those 3 weeks beyond casually mentioning it. I knew she'd be at that party and looked forward to seeing her there, though it wasn't planned around her. When I did ask about another date, I waited almost 10 days to actually suggest a day. I thought I was playing it cool and giving things space. Now, I'm wondering if I just looked uninterested. I'm also aware she's gone on dates with other people. She mentioned one in a story she told me, and that didn't bother me. We've only been on one date, no expectations there. Still, I can't tell whether I messed this up badly or if she expects things to move really fast. What gives, Reddit? Did I blow it here? Is she overreacting? Should I apologize and ask for a second chance? I'm going to be blunt here. She's not crazy. You dropped the ball. 3 weeks between dates after a great first date is a long time. Then when she directly asked if you were free in the next couple of days, you waited 5 more days and invited her out for Saturday like she was a backup plan that you finally got around to scheduling. From her side, this probably looked very simple. Guy likes me, guy disappears, guy pops back up when convenient. That doesn't exactly scream that you're interested. You seem more focused on not looking clingy than on actually dating this woman. You skipped saying goodbye at the party because she was talking to another guy. You didn't ask her out sooner because you didn't want to seem too eager. You waited to lock in plans because you were trying to keep things casual. At some point, playing it cool just starts looking like disinterest. You weren't taking it slow together. You were holding her at arm's length without telling her why. I would have turned you down too. She literally said, "Sure, do you have any free time in the next couple of days?" That was your opening, a wide open one. Then you disappeared for most of the week and came back asking if she was free Saturday, like after you figured out whether you might go to a basketball game with your friend. That's rough. You say you didn't want to rush into anything serious, which is fair. What isn't fair is expecting her to sit around and wait while you decide how available you feel. She read the situation, protected her time, and moved on. Hard to blame her for that. Update 1 month later. So, Reddit absolutely tore me apart in the comments on my last post. Fair enough, I deserved it. I went back and reread what I wrote afterward, and I cringed hard at myself, especially the part where I asked if she was crazy. Looking back, I think I already knew I had messed up. I just didn't want to admit how badly. I was hoping people would tell me I'd done nothing wrong and she was overreacting. Instead, I got a pretty brutal reality check. After sitting with the comments for a few days, I realized a lot of people were right. I kept telling myself I was taking it slow, when really, I was keeping someone I liked at a distance and expecting her to somehow understand what I meant without me ever actually saying it. A few days later, I reached out to Renee and asked if she'd be willing to grab a drink and talk about what happened. To my surprise, she agreed. I found out later, part of the reason was that we have mutual friends, and she didn't want things to feel awkward in the group, though I was grateful she came either way. We met up, got drinks, and I apologized properly. No excuses. I told her I liked her a lot and that I'd handled everything badly. I also explained more about my previous relationship and how rough that breakup had been on me. We were together for 3 years and ended things in late September. I wasn't planning to date seriously anytime soon. I'd been trying to reset my life a bit, reconnect with friends, and not rush straight into another emotional situation before I was ready. Turns out, she already knew some of that through our friend group. During the conversation, she asked me directly why I kept putting off seeing her if I liked her so much. That question forced me to finally say what I had mostly been avoiding, even in my own head. The truth was, I was scared. Scared of getting attached too quickly or of being hurt again. Scared of how much I liked her right away. After our first date, I knew she was different, and I think that threw me off more than I realized. I thought if I only saw her every couple of weeks, I'd fall slower and somehow stay in control of it. Which sounds incredibly stupid now that I've said it out loud. Thankfully, she was much nicer about it than Reddit was. And somehow, she agreed to go out with me again. Since then, we've been on 6 dates in the last month, which feels especially ridiculous considering I nearly ruined everything by waiting 3 weeks between the first and second date. Now, every time a date is wrapping up, I ask her when I can see her again before we've even said goodbye. She gives me a hard time about it too, which I fully deserve. She teases me constantly, and I'm really happy. Like, embarrassingly happy. My stomach still flips when she looks at me and smiles. She makes me laugh harder than anyone I know. She works incredibly hard, volunteers at a soup kitchen twice a week, donates part of her salary to a homeless shelter, and somehow still has endless energy for everyone around her. I could listen to her tell stories for hours and never get tired of it. I catch myself thinking about her constantly during the day. She's even more impressive now that I know her better. Basically, she's amazing, and I very nearly blew my chance with her by acting like an idiot. For anyone wondering, we've both only been seeing each other. I haven't gone out with anyone else and have no interest in doing so. She hasn't either. I'm also trying to figure out how to ask her to officially be my girlfriend. Do adults still do that? Or do you just keep hanging out until one day someone casually says, "So, what are we?" Either way, I'm working on it. I mostly just wanted to come back and say Reddit was right. I messed up. I owned it. I apologized. And somehow it worked out. Thanks for not letting me get away with being an idiot. This might be one of the most satisfying updates I've read in a while. You got called out, you sat with the criticism instead of arguing with it, you admitted where you messed up, and then you actually did something about it. Lots of people ask for advice when what they really want is backup. You came back, took the hit, reflected, apologized like an adult, and you turned it around. That's rare. This update is great. You went from, is she crazy, to, I was scared and handled this badly, which is a pretty massive shift in a short amount of time. That kind of self-awareness usually takes people way longer. Now keep doing the obvious thing when you like someone. Ask her out, answer your texts, and don't wait 3 business weeks to make a plan. So OP waited 3 whole weeks and then said he didn't want to seem clingy? Yeah, meanwhile she's checking her phone like, did he fall into a well? OP thought silence was mystery. It turns out it was just confusing. Lucky for him, she gave him another shot. Me? He'd still be waiting on a reply. Am I the jerk for breaking up with my girlfriend after a prenatal pregnancy test confirmed I was not the father? I, 26 male, was in a relationship with my girlfriend, 26 female, for almost 6 years. We loved each other, but last year, my girlfriend and I decided to separate for a while to rekindle our relationship. Well, that always works, doesn't it? We placed no restrictions on the separation, and we were free to do whatever we wanted and act as we were single. We took a break for a couple of months. The break was much needed to recharge our relationship. A week after getting back together, my girlfriend showed signs of pregnancy. She got an at-home pregnancy test done, which confirmed that she was pregnant. We were both really overjoyed and happy. A few months later, I was planning on proposing to her, and I had already bought the engagement ring. But I wanted to confirm first that I was the father before proposing to her and get the prenatal paternity test done. My girlfriend and I both wanted to do the NIP test to confirm that I was the father. My girlfriend said that she had hooked up with someone during our break, so there was an off chance that I wasn't the father. But we were both very confident that I would be the father. We received the results a couple of weeks later, and I wasn't the father. I was extremely sad, and my girlfriend was sad too. It just hurt me a lot, and emotionally, I couldn't process it. A week later, I broke up with my girlfriend. The breakup was very difficult for her and for me. I told my girlfriend that I just did not want to be the baby's father, and that if possible, she had to try and contact the biological father and let him know. I then helped her move back to her parents' house. Am I the jerk? Update. So a few people in the comments were wondering as to whether my ex knew who the biological dad was. I called my ex last night and asked her if she had found the biological dad, but she said no, that she just knew his first name, but didn't have his number or any social media. She had met him at the bar, and it was pretty much a one-time thing. I asked her how her parents are taking it, and unfortunately, they aren't taking it too great, and they are being really critical of her. Her parents really liked me, and they had no idea that we even took a break. My ex was a bit of an emotional mess when I called her last night, and I felt really bad. I really wished that baby was mine. My ex and I really envisioned spending the rest of our life with each other, but sadly it wasn't. I told my ex last night that was the last time I was going to call her, and I wished her well in her future. She was crying really badly at the end, and it pretty much broke my heart when I hung up. To rekindle our relationship, we decided to break up? Where do all these morons come from? Dumbest thing I've ever heard. It ranks up there with, my partner wants to hook up with other people to spice up our love life. Separate to recharge the relationship is maybe the dumbest idea I've ever heard. Well, how'd that recharge go? You're delusional if you think taking a break from a relationship is a good way to fix it. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk or not? Please let us know. I wouldn't really call him a jerk, but he's definitely not the sharpest tool in the shed. The women at my job made a list of the hottest guys, and they left me off of it. So here's the deal. I, 21 male, work at a store part-time while attending classes. There's a total of 21 of us who work at the store, 13 girls, 8 guys, and we're all around the same age. We have a pretty good working atmosphere, no open hostility so far, and I know that everyone gets along well. We joke around with everyone. Though I will say the guys and girls do tend to stick together more. As for me, I'm fairly well liked by everyone. I try and be pleasant to everyone I work with, because who wants a jerk coworker? Unfortunately, here's where things went bad. One of the guys who works with us, Chris, who's 23, is dating one of the girls in the store, Ashley, who's 21. Chris was apparently on her phone when he came across the girls' group chat. He said it was mostly girl talk, but he found a list ranking all of the guys in the store by their hotness. He had a laugh about it and screenshotted it to send to our group chat. Everyone saw it and just had a laugh at the rankings. The guy at the top, Chad, who's 22, kept sending crown emojis. Then everyone noticed that I wasn't there. I didn't look at the chat until later since I was with my parents at the time and had it on mute. When I saw I wasn't on the list, it was like I had been slapped across the face. And the worst part of this? The list was out of 10, and they included the 3 delivery guys who drop off stuff and some of the girls flirt with. This crushed me in a way I don't think I've ever been crushed before. It's like, dang, I'm that much of a hideous monster that I'm not worthy of being ranked? I spent the rest of my day being miserable and not talking to anyone. When I wasn't responding to the chat, the guys all tried to hit me up individually, but I didn't respond. I looked into the chat and the guys were starting to be upset on my behalf, which I definitely didn't want. I decided to call in sick the next day, and when I didn't show up, apparently it all came out into the open. The girls at the store started messaging me, apologizing to me, and making all kinds of excuses. Quite frankly, I didn't care. I decided to face the music the next day and suck it up at work. When I walked into work, the atmosphere was a lot more tense than it usually was. Becky, who's 23, who is the assistant manager and was in the group chat, pulled me to the side and asked if we could talk. I said okay. She apologized on behalf of everyone in the chat and said that the list was not serious. It was girl talk and not meant to be seen outside the chat. She said that everyone, especially the women at the store, like me for far more valuable things than simply how I look, and that if it were a list of the nicest guys in the store, I'd be number 1. I couldn't help but feel like this was damage control and being friend-zoned all in one motion. I said thank you, but I'm past it and I don't want anyone's pity, and I went about my day. Of course, I did end up getting that pity with a lot of the guys coming over to talk to me, and some of the girls as well. I got so fed up, I went to the manager and asked to go home early. She agreed because she kinda knew what was going on. This was all about 5 days ago, and since then, everyone at the store has been trying to get me to talk, but I haven't gone back. I don't want pity and I don't want sympathy. If they think I'm ugly, then fine, but don't try and justify it or make me feel better about it. The reason I'm here is because I need advice on how to navigate the situation at my job and with my friends. How do I tell everyone to basically leave me alone and not pity me? Because honestly, I'm leaning towards just quitting. Edit. I'm reading your comments and I thank everyone for their input, the tough love and all. I just wanted to pop in here and say one thing. I didn't feel entitled to them thinking I was hot. I don't feel entitled to anything from them. The reason I was upset is because them leaving me off the list for relative strangers felt pretty cruel and messed up. I don't know how to describe it. Like, I guess it sucks that I'm not attractive to them, but being left off entirely felt a step too far. So sorry that that happened to you, OP. I hope that they all get a reprimand of some kind. That was not okay, and HR should have been involved. In all seriousness, your looks do not dictate who you are or your values. Without seeing a photo, no one else can judge each other. So let's make a new list. 1. You're friendly and open to valued communication. 2. You've handled your emotions well and empathetic. 3. You're clearly working and driven. 4. You set a boundary and stuck to it. You're a good human. That's pretty top-notch in my book. Looks fade. Nasty dispositions usually don't. OP. Thank you. This really got to me. You have a way with words, friend. I hope someone makes your day like you made mine. Update. I just wanted to clear up a few things first. I didn't really care necessarily if they found me ugly or whatever. I just felt like being left off the list was a deliberate slap in the face. I didn't and don't feel entitled to anything. Next, the manager of the store, Barb, was not involved in the group chat in any way. She's a 38-year-old married woman and they have 2 kids, and she's far too busy trying to get us to stop smoking behind the store on our breaks. What I meant to say is that she was made aware of the situation after it was brought to her attention. Third, I wasn't aware of the list right away. I was with my parents and wasn't paying attention to the chat. Now, after reading the comments on the first thread, I decided that while I could be upset that I was deemed unattractive, I probably shouldn't care as much as I did. I kinda wanted to discover why not being on that list hurt me so much, so I took my sister's advice and will be seeking a therapist. Funny enough, my grandpa has a saying that came to mind when reading the comments in the first thread. Whenever my dad or his brothers or sisters would be upset about something, my grandpa would tell them, "I didn't get wounded in Iadrang Valley, so you could sit there and cry about this or that." He was telling them to toughen up. It became a joke among my aunts and uncles that was passed down to my cousins, so I could hear my grandpa telling me in my head, "I didn't get wounded in Iadrang Valley, so you could sit there and cry about some girls thinking you're ugly." And that got me up a bit. I was still feeling kind of crappy, but I decided to put on a brave face and tell my manager I'd come into work the next day, after posting the thread. As soon as I walked in, the manager took me to her office and said the owner of the store wanted to see me. I wasn't really worried since I had a good relationship with Carl, who's the owner. Carl told me he heard about this story and he was sorry about everything. He said the list was childish and unprofessional, and he was sorry I had to take time off to deal with it. He said the girls all got a strong reprimand and a stern warning that this wouldn't be tolerated in the future. He also suspended Becky because he said that she shouldn't have been in the chat to begin with, and if she was, she should have stopped the list stuff. He also emphasized that he told everyone that he hadn't talked to me yet and that he wasn't punishing anyone because I asked for it. He also said he'd pay me for the shifts I missed as a bit of a compensation for the mental distress. I thanked him and told him I was over it pretty much right away. I just hated having everyone think I needed coddling and wanted everything to cool down. With that, we shook hands and I started my day. Everyone welcomed me back and I said hi to them. I went to my locker and found a letter slipped inside. It was a handwritten letter from all the girls. I'll summarize here because the list was long. In it, they apologized profusely for the chat and the list. They said that nothing was going to make it right or make me believe them, but they wanted to say once again the list was not serious and meant to be some stupid fun, and no one was meant to see it. They said that they all loved me individually, that I was a good person, and that makes me more attractive than most people who are considered hot. Interestingly, they said I was considered cute. Okay then. I flagged down one of the girls on shift who I get along really well with, Sam, who's 20, to tell the group that I accept their apology. I told her to tell them that I got over it pretty much right away, that I just took time off because I wanted the situation to die down, and that I didn't take anything personally. Also, I told her that I'm sorry that anyone got in trouble. I didn't talk to Barb or Carl about anything until today. I didn't want this to become an issue at all. Unfortunately, the guys made it an issue on my behalf. Sam apologized again and told me she'd tell everyone. And that's that. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I don't believe her when she says that she'd be okay with us calling our daughter by different names? I'm 30, male. My wife, who's 29, is pregnant with our first, our daughter. She's just about a month away from giving birth, and we don't have a name picked out yet. At one point, we had 2 potential names on a list, but my wife told me she really didn't want to give either name to our daughter, so that was that. Our issue comes from a difference in likes and dislikes in names. My wife likes very common, very classic names, and she likes to go a touch of old-fashioned too. Her 3 favorite girls' names are Elizabeth, Esther, and Hannah. She also strongly loves the names Emily, Beatrice, Constance, Patricia, Catherine, and Geraldine. But there are many names in the same sphere that she likes. My taste is a bit more mixed, but I like more uncommon names and names that aren't super used or classic, but I have some classics I like. Names I adore are Indigo, Indy, Lyric, Elodie, Lyra, Dove, Sunny, Scout, and Kalia. We strongly dislike the names the other strongly likes and loves. We had the name Briony and the name Melody on our list for a while, but my wife decided neither were names she could tolerate our daughter having, so we went back to square one. I feel like she refuses to try and find names closer to what I like, whereas the ones I suggest closer to her like Chloe or Alana, are names that she doesn't feel totally okay with. She said at one point she should get more of a say as the person carrying our daughter and giving birth to her, but that was dropped soon after. However, my wife has decided the fairest compromise is that one picks the first and the other picks the middle name, and we each call her by the name we pick. So say we end up with Elizabeth Indy. She'd call her Elizabeth, or a nickname from said name, and I'd call her Indy. The thing is, I'm not opposed to this entirely, but I give it a month after our daughter is born before my wife is annoyed that I don't call our daughter by her first name, and I know when she talks about the compromise, she means for her choice to go in the first name spot and mine in the middle. I also know that annoyance will only grow if friends and family choose to call her Indy, and this is just an example instead of Elizabeth. But since both would be used a lot, it could happen, and I know her 2 younger sisters would likely lean more in my taste, so they'd prefer to call her something like Indy to Elizabeth. So I don't think the compromise would work for too long. I told my wife this, and she told me she's an adult and she would be fine. She said I have no reason to doubt her. I told her I know how much she hates not getting her way on certain things, and this is a big thing to her. She told me she'd be okay with me calling our daughter a different name. Even as she said it, she looked annoyed and like she was forcing it. I told her I didn't believe her. My wife said it's unfair not to because she knows herself better than I do. I suggested we trial it out before our daughter comes, and she was upset about that too. Am I the jerk? Everyone sucks here. You know who's gonna suffer the most? This poor kid who won't even know her own name and will constantly have her parents forcing their preferred name on her until she's expected to pick a side. Y'all are both supposed to be adults about to have a kid. You're way past the time when you can be the childish ones. Both of you need to start acting like adults and sit down and hash this out. Pick a name you can both agree on, or put your names in a hat and pick one and be done with it. Whatever works. Everyone sucks here. Not only are you both quite rigid in your selections of names, but you both lack flexibility. People prefer common names, and since she will eventually have a profession, a real job, and relationships, she needs a name that will develop with her. Scout and Indy sound like dog names. For real. I think people forget that this baby will grow up to be an adult, and walking into a professional sphere with a name Lyric will not go well. You're naming a person, not a thing, OP. I know a person named Lyric, and she's grown up fine. She worked for the government for several years, and now she owns a successful small business. Someone succeeding despite having a weird name isn't a case for giving your kid a weird name. Delete it? Are you sure? Okay. So I'm a fiend for Excel spreadsheets. Absolutely love them, and even bought an extra wide monitor for home so I can see them in all their glory. My boss keeps telling me that she's an advanced Excel user. She can run macros, she can do pivot tables, she knows formulas. Not once have I seen her create or manipulate a spreadsheet in the 6 months I've worked for her. So I had a template on our Teams chat that we used every week. It was automated to within an inch of its life to tell us about the company's health. We've been using it for the last 4 months after I was given approval by the boss to make it live, gave her a tutorial and everything. This was for the admins to all see it, and I'd only need to update the raw data once a week instead of send it manually to whoever wanted it on a given day, up to 4 times a day usually. Took out about 6 hours of work a week having it set up like that. Well, the boss told me to take it down because a different department who hadn't seen it was worried about personal data when one of the admins told them about it. There isn't anything like that in there, and anything that isn't open access is password hidden anyway. Our IT team has to be formally requested to add a new member to our team's chat. The spreadsheet is password protected, the tabs are password protected, and the whole company is locked down hard anyway. So boss orders me to take it down and delete it. Run a fresh one for anyone who wants it. So I explained there wasn't anything in it that was personal or private data, but got told no, delete it anyway. Tried to explain we use it amongst the admins every day, and it has all these built-in features and tables, etc. Nope, still delete it. So I did. The fallout? Cue today. Boss says to me her big boss meeting is presenting figures to the executives tomorrow. She starts quoting figures that are wildly out from the true numbers. I questioned where they came from, and she showed me a Frankenstein report that's saying the exact opposite of what she thought. Run by someone not even in our department. I tell her the accurate grand total, and I show her how I got there with a simple table and some screenshots I had of the original shared spreadsheet. She asks for access, and I tell her it's been deleted. I explained why, and even showed the meeting notes where she had approved its use after viewing it. She denies any knowledge of it, but wants it back. I said it would take me 2 to 3 days to make it again due to my workload increase. I saved a copy of the template, but no way I'm telling her that. This will give me breathing room to get the backlog out of my queue while she thinks that I'm working on it. Let her sweat through that executive meeting knowing every figure is wrong. No one's saving her in this team anymore. I'm 38, female. My husband, who's 39, has been hiding having lunch with a coworker, 25, female, and said that my food was tasteless. What do I do? I feel really weird about this, and I'm on the verge of asking for a separation. So I've been with my husband for 15 years, married for 11. Amazing relationship. Small bumps, of course, but nothing like this. I've always made lunch for my husband to take to work, and up until a little over a month ago, that was fine. Middle of March, he said that a new Turkish food stand opened up outside of his office and that he had been eating lunches there instead because they were good. All right, no problem. So he just completely stopped asking for lunches. I had maybe packed 5 during this time frame for him, but I'm not even sure he was eating them now. So on Thursday, I was at home working and I had a phone call from him. Thought he was calling during his lunch, but he had butt dialed me on accident. At first, I didn't hear much, just heard him talking to someone, and I was about to hang up until I heard a woman's voice as well. I wouldn't say I'm a jealous person, but I was a little bit curious, so I muted my call at work and listened. It was just standard conversation at first. He was praising this woman's cooking a lot, which of course made me realize that he was eating lunch his coworker made. I was a bit peeved, but there's an explanation, sure. Although that went out the window when she said, "Is it better than your wife's?" To which he replied, "Oh yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's not tasteless for a start," followed by laughing. First of all, what's that supposed to mean? 15 years of cooking and now he has a complaint? And not even to me, but some coworker? Also, that absolutely isn't innocent on her end, right? I'm not crazy in thinking that's so weird. Why even bring me up? Anyways, I raised heck, ended the call, sent him a message not to worry about my tasteless cooking anymore, and that he can eat from the bin from now on. He's apologized, said that he loves my food and was just trying to seem cool in front of his coworker. I asked why he lied about where he was getting lunch from, and he said that he initially did get lunch from that stand, but that the coworker started offering and he didn't want to tell me because he thought I would get jealous. Yeah, can you blame me? So I've been airing him since. I'm still upset, to be honest. I haven't made him lunch or dinner, only for myself since he said he dislikes it so much. He said today that he apologized and that I shouldn't keep punishing him, but I'm literally an inch from going to my mom's. I have a suitcase with my clothes packed under our bed already. Dad thinks it was a stupid comment, but that I should work it out. Mom is on my side regardless of my decision. I'm thinking about leaving for a few days at least. Maybe a separation, but I honestly just want some reassurance if that's what's best here. Let's be real here. What are the odds the first time he talks about you negatively is the time that he butt dials you? This has been going on since he stopped having you make him lunch. Married men who are into some other woman start conversations by making themselves the victim and talking crap about their wives. In this case, maybe your husband was crap talking about your cooking and now this coworker is making him lunch and they're eating it together. Am I the jerk for arguing with my wife and my in-laws over our kids' extracurriculars? My wife, 32 female, and I, 32 male, had some compromising to do with extracurricular activities. My wife grew up doing a lot of them. She pretty much never had free time, and her parents are pretty against it for kids. She did gymnastics, softball, basketball, soccer, dance, and music growing up. My family were more laid back, and that worked for me. I swam and did art sometimes, but none of it was super competitive and serious. My wife did a lot more of the competitive stuff and was always serious and going for pro. When we were discussing kids, she wanted the kids to be raised the same as her. I didn't agree with that, so we agreed we wouldn't force it on them. We wouldn't overwhelm them, 2 or 3 at absolute most at a time, and we wouldn't make them do the more competitive sports teams if they didn't want to, but if they wanted to, it wouldn't be stopped either. We have 4 boys. Our older 2 are very into sports and they take it seriously and want to play on serious teams. But our younger boys are the opposite and really don't like team sports. One favors swimming and the other favors rock climbing, but neither want to do either seriously. My wife wanted them to follow in their older brother's footsteps and at least do football on the serious team their brothers were part of and have since progressed from. I disagreed and referenced back to our prior agreement. She disagreed with me and said they need to be on teams and should be more serious about sports. My wife brought her parents into this and all 3 of them tried to tell me why I was wrong. In-laws said kids with free time are going to grow up to be delinquents, and I was the exception to that. They also said the younger ones aren't going to be tough enough for high school and beyond that if they don't learn something more solid in terms of sports. I asked what any of this had to do with them being tough and was ignored. My wife said I was being disagreeable for no reason and so unreasonable. I grew frustrated and told her she was using her parents to gang up on me and that we had an agreement and she was refusing to stick to it, even though I never interfered in what our older boys wanted. She told me they made the right choices. She wanted our younger boys to do the same. She said they're missing out on the pressure that all kids need to experience and the expectation that being part of a serious team brings. Her parents said my wife is right and I need to see sense and stop being selfish. I lost my temper and told my in-laws this had nothing to do with them, I told my wife she was totally wrong for bringing her parents into this and trying to back me into a corner, and I wasn't okay with any of it. They're mad at me for making it a fight. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your wife and in-laws are sending the wrong message to your kids that their true, authentic selves aren't good enough. Sometimes it's good to push kids a little bit out of their comfort zones so they continue to challenge themselves and try new things. But wanting them to abandon their identities could create some deep issues. Keep standing up for them and continue to celebrate their true, authentic selves. It's really important that kids are allowed to be individuals. Not everyone has the same personality and needs the same stimuli to grow and develop. Your wife and her family need to understand that just because she was the right personality type to benefit from this doesn't mean that all of her kids are. She could do more harm than good by forcing them to do something that's not right for them as individuals. Also, most kids in the world do not do that list of activities that your wife did. In the UK, even among wealthy families, that's very excessive. 95% of us manage to not be delinquents as well. Go figure. Please don't back down on this for your kids' sake. Not the jerk. I have 4 kids. Not one of them was serious about sports. We had some soccer, track and field, basketball over the years, but no one was ever totally gung-ho. We also had art classes, robotics, music, and a ton of outdoor family experiences. All 4 are fine. 2 engineers and 2 are in vocational training type careers. All good people, responsible, never had any issues of delinquency or the like. Your wife and her parents are nuts. Your wife is the jerk for bringing them into your family business. You guys need counseling ASAP. This is beyond Reddit. I've worked with kids for more than 30 years. Being scheduled that much does not make a happy person. It's all about control. Don't let these guys bully you. Not the jerk. Fender bender in the car wash, but who's actually at fault? Let's find out. Several years ago, I worked at a gas station with a car wash. This car wash uses a chain that pulls every vehicle through at the same speed, about 25 feet apart. The car wash was the cause of about 80% of all customer grievances. This one was a bit different. One weekday afternoon, I was stocking shelves when a young woman and an old man come in together. They spot me and say that we need to have a conversation, so I move back behind the counter. Okay, so what can I do for you? I ask with a smile. The woman is about to speak when the old man cuts her off. Your car wash damaged my car. Both of ours. Not the first time that I've heard this. Huh, how so? I ask. The woman chimes in. We were both in the car wash. I was ahead of him, and the car wash pulled his car into the back of mine. Hard. Immediate red flag. That's impossible. The chain can't pull one vehicle faster or slower than another. So I tell them exactly that. The woman says, Is it Are you calling me a liar? The man asks, interrupting her. She's visibly annoyed. What I'm saying, I point out to the man, is that the car wash couldn't have done this. Either you, I make eye contact with the woman, hit the brakes, I look back at the man, or you hit the gas. I didn't touch the brakes, the woman said, sounding as though she started second-guessing herself. I'm not stupid, the man shot back. I never touched the gas pedal. I had a feeling that the older guy was probably the one at fault here, so he was my prime suspect. Well, thankfully the car wash is lined up with cameras, so I'll just go rewind the footage and see what happened, I say, matter-of-factly. Oh, that's not necessary. We'll just have the company pay for the damages, the man says agreeably. Well, the company is going to want to review the footage anyway, so I might as well do it now. No, let's not waste any more of our time, the man says nervously. I exaggeratingly raise an eyebrow at him, then glance over at her. She clues in that I'm laying the pressure on him and also looks at him suspiciously. Oh, but surely the camera footage will prove your innocence, sir. Silence. Yup, it's him. So I review the footage, and sure enough, while he was being pulled by the chain at first, he hit the gas and rear-ended her. I came back behind the counter and looked at the woman. Well, turns out he hit the gas and rear-ended you. Now, even though it happened in the car wash, it wasn't caused by the car wash, so this matter will have to be solved between the two of you. If you would like the camera footage to provide to your insurance, I'd be happy to give it to you. I look over at the old man with a smirk. He clearly died a little on the inside, knowing that he's done for. She thanked me and looks over at him as if to say, Pay up, sucker. Am I the jerk for not paying my boyfriend back after he didn't get me the right birthday cake? I definitely have a bit of a complex about this kind of stuff because of how I grew up. Always with my siblings getting what they asked for, while I almost never did, and generally feeling like I never get my turn at things, so it will be helpful to know if I'm justified or overreacting. My boyfriend and I have been dating for 10 months, and it was my birthday yesterday. I put a lot of effort into birthdays, including his, and I was pretty excited about it for the last month or so. There's a local bakery that makes a really good-looking pineapple upside-down cake. I've been really wanting to try it and have been saving it for my birthday. About a month in advance, I told him my birthday was coming up and gave him a few activity ideas and told him that I didn't need a gift, but I really wanted a pineapple upside-down cake from XYZ Bakery. He said sure. Now, I know this was probably annoying, but I did mention this specific cake several times, even before last month. Like, we would drive by the bakery and I'd say something like, "Oh, hey, that's the place with the pineapple cake. I want to do that for my birthday." I wasn't deliberately hammering the point home or anything, or aware that it was going to end in a cake-centered conflict, but there were a couple occasions where it came up. And then a week before my birthday, I did text him a reminder about the cake so that he would have the bakery info on hand. Yesterday rolls around and my boyfriend comes over to my apartment and gives me a gift, which is a Kindle. Not a bad gift, and I know they're expensive, but not something particularly relevant to me either. Then he says, "Let's have cake," and presents what you all know by now is not the pineapple upside-down cake, but just a regular grocery store cake with the frosting balloons. Vanilla cake with vanilla buttercream. You guys, I was legitimately sad. If I knew he was going to drop the ball on this, I would have just gotten myself a pineapple cake months ago instead of waiting. I was on the verge of tears because of not getting the one thing I actually wanted, which was that stupid cake. So I told him I was very disappointed and that he should just go home. He had 2 tickets to a comedy show for that night, and one ended up going to waste. Now he's annoyed because it is of course just a cake and wants me to reimburse the cost of the wasted ticket. It was only about $30, but I am bristling at the principle of it and said I didn't owe him the money. He sent me a Venmo request for $30. Am I the jerk if I don't pay? Not the jerk. I'm sick of boyfriends and husbands getting a pass on things like this. You clearly told him what you wanted, and then he didn't even get the cake. You asked him for one thing, and he couldn't even do that right. Exactly. How hard is it to follow instructions? I mean, you needn't put any effort. You are told exactly what she wants. I get wanting to give her a more thoughtful gift, but OP said the Kindle wouldn't be relevant to things they like to do. If my husband kept telling me, "Babe, I think this cake would be cool for my birthday," it would be the first thing on my mind to purchase for his birthday. I mean, either he's not listening or he doesn't care. My wife is demanding I financially support her ex. So let me start out by giving you a little history of my wife and I. We're both 38. We were high school sweethearts, but ultimately I broke it off with her because our lives at that point were going in opposite directions. I was laser focused on sports and higher education, and she wanted to party with her friends. Fast forward about 20 years, and I'm back in our hometown visiting my family, and I run into her working at the local Walmart. We exchange pleasantries, and we make a plan to meet for dinner and catch up. Well, everything goes great, and we talk well into the night, and it feels like we've been friends forever, even though we haven't talked in 15 years. So we decide to start dating, but we live 1,200 miles apart. I would fly her down to my place about every other month for a week or so for a year and a half. Then we started talking about her moving here. Well, here's where things start to get complicated. She has a younger son. Yes, the father does spend a little time here and there with his son, but very little. When his son goes over there, his father mostly just plays video games, and his son just watches. The father works very part-time under the table and pays for nothing for his son and pays no child support. So eventually, my girlfriend at that time moves in with me, and the father of their son agrees to let her bring their son. We have never kept his son from him. I have also flown the father here multiple times so he can spend time with his son. We've sent his son up to stay with him over the summer last year when school was out. Now to the crux of it all. The father has recently moved to the town that we live in to be closer to his son, which I don't mind, except for the fact that we live in an expensive area. The father finds a room to rent from someone and has found a job working about 20 hours a week. He refuses to buy a car and is constantly calling my wife for rides. When he wants to see their son, my wife has to drive him over to the house and then go pick him up later. Some days when he's off work, he magically ends up at our house and we feed him and all of that. So it gets to the point where I feel like I'm supporting this man because my wife is a stay-at-home wife, so I'm 100% of the home's financial income. I've addressed this multiple times with my wife and she just says, "I know, But he's my son's father, and I don't want my son to miss out on having a father. Which I get, but I don't think I should be the one supporting him. So last night I talked to my wife again about the situation, and I basically gave her 3 options. I told her that she needs to talk to him and let him know that she's not going to be driving him around everywhere, and he's not going to be eating at our house 3 nights a week and hanging out at our house. I offered to talk to him, but she declined me talking to him. Then I told her that the second option is her getting a job so she could spend her money on him. This is when she started to get mad and said I was being financially controlling. So I responded by telling her that her third option would be a divorce. I never yelled or even got upset. I'm just to the point where I'm not going to be supporting the father because he utterly refuses to do anything with his life. I love my wife and my stepson, but I just think that's asking too much. Not the jerk. If you're looking to adopt a 35-year-old, I'm available though. You went above and beyond for too long. Tell her he's a man and needs to provide for his kid. Not the jerk. Wife is very generous with your money. Honestly, the kid isn't yours and he's in school. She should be working anyway. I just found out my husband has $45,000 in secret credit card debt. Last week, I went to the grocery store to buy some stuff for dinner and my card was rejected. It was like $4.50, so I had no idea it would be declined. I checked the balance and it was overdrafted by $800. I asked my husband what the heck, and he said, something must have cleared early. I transferred $2,000 from our emergency savings and went about my day. But then it really started gnawing at me. We make more than enough to be able to cover all our payments. There should be no reason why we would be in the negative. So I started to go through all the transactions and I noticed a bunch of payments to different credit card companies. At the very bottom of this statement, it had a snapshot of his credit report and there were all these open accounts. They totaled to about $45,000. I was livid at that point and confronted my husband with the statement and demanded to know what was going on. What was he hiding from me? He swore it was nothing bad, just a lot of overspending. I told him I didn't believe him and I needed access to all of his stuff. All of it. Accounts, phone, tablet. When I went through all the credit card statements, it was a bunch of mundane crap. Restaurants, gifts, trips. But there's 2 loans for $10,000 that are just gone. Like he removed the cash and I don't know where it went. At this point, he's been lying to me for so long that I don't trust him for crap. I told him I was done. There is no coming back from this kind of stuff. When I went to talk to a lawyer and kind of explain what was going on, I wanted to see how done for I was. He said that he would have to itemize every purchase to decide what was for us versus him. Otherwise, I'm on the hook for half of it. As for the houses, we would either have to sell them and split whatever debt or profit, or one buy out the other. I don't know what to do. I've been thinking about it for days. I haven't told anyone. I know my mom would definitely not be supportive. She would find a way to blame me. You should have helped him more. Men aren't good with money. I can almost hear it. The kids know something is up since my husband has been sleeping on the couch all week. He keeps trying to explain, but I just don't believe a word he says. I just want to throw a toaster at him. I want to calm down and make a rational decision, but that takes time and patience. I'm not good with either. I need a drink. When I would hear women say things about men, I would think, no, I have a good guy. I feel so stupid for being so trusting. I don't pay attention for 5 minutes and he does me over. I look at my son and think, is he gonna do over some woman too in the future? How do I stop that from happening? My husband did this to me. He stopped paying the mortgage for 1 year and he owed the IRS over $60,000 because he didn't pay. He took care of the finances and I trusted I had married an adult that wouldn't do that or would communicate with me if there was a problem. I was wrong. What I learned is that whatever the reason, 3 years later and thousands in lawyers, I still don't know where that money went. He chose to lie. He knew we were going to end up homeless and he kept doing it until I found out. He now wants me to pay for half of that debt. A man that lies of things like that is not only being mistreating, he already doesn't care about you and is already causing you damage. He won't care about causing more and probably will do it just to not face consequences. Document everything. Get a lawyer. Leave now and sue for fraud against the marriage estate. This won't get better. OP. I feel so guilty and dumb for trusting him fully. I'm a nurse, and during lockdown, I was working crazy hours and was burnt out and exhausted all the time. I let him take over all the finances, thinking I too had married an adult, and if something was wrong, he would tell me. I admit I got comfortable. Now that things have slowed down and I'm back to working locally, In only 36 hours, I started paying more attention. I find this. Thank you. I really needed to hear this. 1. He has agreed to sign a post-nup. It will be more legally agreeable for me at this point. 2. He has agreed to take responsibility for the entire amount of debt. I don't really care what it was on. It's not about the money. It's the constant lying. He still won't and can't be totally clear with me on where it went. 3. We went to our first marriage counseling session last week. It went okay, I guess. I really don't see how you unring this bell. Right now, all I want to do is leave, but that's not a legally smart thing to do. I quickly found out how easy it is to look like the crazy one when the other person is really good at lying. It's really hard to keep your calm when all you want to do is explode. I'm going to get my ducks in a row and then file for divorce. My 2 oldest kids will be in college next year and our youngest is 16. I still think I'll look like the bad guy. I'm doing okay. I keep cycling through feeling angry, sad, stupid, and heartbroken. 20 years of marriage, gone. What were the loans for? OP. They were deposited into our checking account and then taken out as cash. When asked for clarification, he swears we spent that cash on vacations as spending money. Sure, we would carry around cash for tips or street vendors, but most of our vacation spendings are documented on our bank statements. So once again, not lying, but also not telling the whole truth. I really want to know what he spent it on. OP mentioned concert tickets that she didn't recall attending. I'm betting extramarital relationship. She also mentioned gifts, trips, and restaurants. It surely is an affair. Am I the jerk for making my parents replace my toys they decided to give away? I'm moving to another city for work. Since I'm an adult and not a college kid, I hired movers. My parents insisted on coming down to help me pack up. I live in their basement suite. It was cheap and they let me have my privacy. They brought my brother and my nephew. The 4 of them were absolutely no help at all, especially my nephew. My parents decided to keep him busy by giving him one of my Lego sets to play with. I collect them. What I usually do is buy 2 of the same one. I build one, put it up for display, and leave the other one in the box to trade or sell. He took it upstairs to stay out of the way, then he took it home. All I noticed is that he was out from underfoot. The next day, I saw the box in the garbage. I didn't assume. I knew the answer already, but I didn't assume. I went upstairs to talk to them. I asked where the Lego box came from. They said they gave it to Travis to keep him busy. I told them that they needed to replace it. They said I was being childish for caring so much about a toy. I said they could replace it or I would file an insurance claim, and that would probably require a police report. My dad got angry. He pulled out $70 and told me I was a jerk for making a fuss over a toy. I asked him if that was a down payment. He said that's what he spent on the last Lego gift he got me for Christmas, and that's what those helmets cost. I showed him the box. I told him to keep his money. He just had to give me a sealed box like the one he stole. He said he didn't steal anything. He took the box and went to the Lego store nearby. When he came back, he was apologetic. He said he would get it back for my nephew. I said I wanted a sealed box with a TIE Fighter helmet. I even went on eBay to help him find one cheaper than he had found by himself at the collectibles store the guy at the Lego store sent him to. With shipping, it would only be $300. He ordered it. He isn't happy about it. My mom is upset that I'm expecting that much money for a toy. My dad is upset that I didn't explain before he went and made a fool of himself at the store. I'm upset that they stole from me. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Your parents are judgmental and inconsiderate. They stole something of yours and gave it to your nephew without asking you. When you ask them about it, they belittled you for even having it in the first place. They didn't even think they needed to replace the stolen item and probably wouldn't have even told you about it if you hadn't asked. Their opinion of whether Lego products are for kids is irrelevant because the fact is that they're a collectible item that people pay a lot of money for. All of it could have been avoided if they had just asked you first, or even better, if they had bothered to have things in their home to entertain their grandson in the first place, instead of just taking your stuff. They probably hoped since you have so many boxes of Lego sets, you would never even notice it was missing. Not the jerk. They had no business giving away your property. They need to consider themselves lucky that they didn't give away something with a really wild collector's value. That $300 is a cheap learning experience. You're the jerk. You said you lived there cheap. You say you're an adult. Well, we're discussing a toy. Maybe a collector's item, but still a toy. And if you lived cheap, consider that an extra bit of rent you just paid. Throwing a fit, threatening to go to the cops? Really? Filing a police report and insurance claim takes hours. If you have a decent job and hours equals money, and it's barely worth your time for a $300 item. Your parents might have goofed, but they were trying to help you and trying to make a kid happy. You're the jerk. My husband wants a divorce, but wants to stay with me. We separated 2 years ago. My son and I moved back to my home state with my parents. We were constantly fighting before I left, and it got really bad, so he told me he wanted a divorce. I was very hurt emotionally when I left and had a lot of mental health issues because of everything he put me through. I accept I'm also at fault for our problems. As I was healing, he reached out to me and wanted to get back together. At first, I refused, but I eventually gave him a chance. During this time, he found out that I had reported him for not providing financial support. He's military and obligated to provide for his family since we were still married. So he was forced to send me a set amount each month. He was soon to be deployed, and I wanted to make sure he helped me with our son before he left. He was hurt, so I eventually filed for divorce and sent him the paperwork for him to sign while he was deployed. He was the one in a hurry to divorce. I told him I would wait until he returned. He never signed it, and we began talking again and healing together. The case was dropped due to no progression. He returned a year ago, and we've still been separated. He's selling the house and moving back here closer to my son and I next month. We've grown so much and have gotten to a really good place, but we still have occasional fights. I have trust issues and have become paranoid about many things, so this also causes fights. Because of this, he suggests that we divorce, but stay together and keep trying. He says marriage is only a legal obligation and it shouldn't matter. He prefers to do it before it gets any worse between us. He wants to protect himself financially because he doesn't want me going after any new house he buys. He also wants to make sure he gets time with our son and that it is legally written down. I was originally fighting for full custody and possibly supervised visitation because he has a drinking problem. I've seen him get better and agree that he has every right to have his time with our son. I also understand a boy needs his father. He claims this is for me because it will show me that he truly loves me and cares for me, that this will help me see that he'll always be there for me even though there's no legal obligation, like giving me more assurance. Thinks it might be better for us and we could also live our lives separately but still be together. I don't agree with this and told him if we divorce, he's going to lose me because I will not keep trying. He says he'll keep trying anyways. I'll always care for him, but I'd prefer to co-parent and move on and be single instead. I see this only causing more issues for me and can't help but think he's just been manipulating me into getting a better outcome in divorce. Anyone agree with him and could give me more perspective on this? I feel like I deserve better. He still calls me like nothing's changed and tells me that he misses me and checks on me, which is very confusing for me. Update: I've decided to file for divorce and move on with my life. I appreciate all the advice. It really helps open my eyes, and it feels very liberating to finally let it go. Also, I believe he has cheated on me emotionally with another female soldier. He also would go out with an old female friend, but he has denied ever cheating on me, of course. He also admitted to getting into a relationship while we were separated, but said it was just to fill a void. I know I have tolerated way more than I should have. The only reason I gave him another chance was for our son to have both parents, and I didn't want to live with any regrets. Everything he's planning is for his own best interest. He wants the benefits of marriage, but none of the liabilities like shared assets or possible monogamy. Do what is best for you and your son. He already has you. If he wants a divorce, then it's over. Time to move on. Why exactly does he want to spend all this money on a divorce just to stay with you? Will he marry you again once he makes up his decision? Veteran here. The guy doesn't want his command to have any say about how much money he needs to send his kid. If he divorces OP, then he has zero obligations towards his family, except what the divorce courts decide, and he gets to be free while taking advantage of OP. There's a lot of military laws that protect the military spouse and family at home, and jerks like this guy really don't like that. I've served with guys like this, and it makes me sick seeing how they manipulate their families so they can love bomb them when they're home, but discard them at will. Am I the jerk for leaving dinner because my sister was late again? I, 27 female, had plans to go out to dinner with my sister who's 30, as we do every month. She lives in my hometown and I live in the next state over with my boyfriend. We're about 35 minutes to an hour apart depending on traffic. We agreed to meet closer to hometown with my mom. One thing about her, she's always late. I expect she'll always be at least 30 minutes late, but it's been up to a few hours. And not just random plans, weddings and graduations too. It's been brought up in the past by mom and I, but she always brushes it off and gets upset. My boyfriend drove me over. I can't drive, and he offered to drop me off before he had to head out for plans of his own near home and come back when he was done. I assumed after dinner we would just hang out at her house either way. Get to the place and start calling my sister. She usually doesn't say if she's going to be late, but if my mom is with her, she does, and I hadn't heard anything. I get mom a few minutes later, and she says they're behind because it took a while to get my nephew ready, and my sister got in the shower later than expected. I didn't even know my nephew was coming with them, and she usually tells me if he is. Her husband was apparently there to let mom in when she showed up, but went back to sleep as soon as she got there. Not sure why he couldn't help get the baby ready, but that's none of my business. I check maps, and it says 35 minutes, adding in getting baby strapped and secure, and then putting him in either the stroller or front carrier on her body. I was looking at 40 minutes. To top it off, we had reservations. She made the reservation, not me. I had never been to this place and didn't know if it was one of those places that don't let you have the table if your whole group isn't there. There was really no space to wait inside, and I'd have to stand outside. Either way, I didn't feel like sitting alone for 40 minutes, even if I could. She doesn't keep her friends waiting this long when they make plans. I don't get why it's okay to do this to me and mom. I'm speaking to mom as they're trying to change the reservation online. At that point, I was fed up. If we agree to be there at a certain time, be there. 5 or 10 minutes late is fine, but not this. I told mom I was going back home. I didn't feel like fuming at the table and acting like I wasn't mad when they got there, as I had done before. She sounded hurt and mad, but said fine and that she would go home too. Since then, I haven't spoken to my sister. It's been a few weeks, and mom doesn't want to get in the middle. But I told her I wasn't speaking to her until I get an apology. Mom told her she can't keep doing this on their ride back home and agrees it's an issue, but won't say much else. It's ridiculous to just always be late because you're bad at time management. She also wants to use the "it takes a long time to get the baby ready" excuse, which I would accept if it wasn't for the fact that this has been a problem long before my nephew was born or even a thought. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Habitual, unforced lateness is rude and inconsiderate of others. There's nothing you can do to make your sister arrive on time. All you can do is decide whether you're willing to wait or would prefer to go, then do what you want. The best thing might be to set a boundary. I will wait for you for 20 minutes or whatever, and then I will leave. But then you have to be consistent about following your own rule. Otherwise, all your words and complaints are empty. My wife gets frustrated that I don't wear my clothes in order. My wife and I split laundry work and that I bring it down to the basement, load it in, and change it over before bringing it back upstairs, and my wife puts the clothes away when they're done because she has a certain way she likes to fold and put clothes away, which to me is a fine division of labor and effort in housekeeping. The way she puts clothes away, though, has very little to do with clothes being accessible or organized by type, and more about putting them in order so that every piece of clothing has a chance to be worn. Clothes that are in drawers get rotated into a closet, a tiny closet in our New York City apartment, and then new clean clothes go into the drawers to await being put back in rotation. There isn't any organization beyond this. Our clothes get mixed into drawers seemingly at random. Pajamas with dress shirts, sweatpants in the same place as sleeveless tees. So clearly the order is the most important factor to her, and not being able to find or access clothes you want to wear. So I'm forced to look through everything to find an outfit you want to wear. Though to her, I should only be choosing what to wear out of what is in the closet. I can understand this to a point, and have said I can see the value in this system, especially if that is something that's important to her. That I appreciate the level of organization and dedication she puts into our lives at home, but also that I won't be told I can't wear the clothes I want when I want to. I'm a comfort outfit type of person. I know which of my shirts I love the most and what pairs of pants I like them with, what belt goes with which outfits, etc. However, I don't believe I need to wear them in a rotation, and not being able to wear or find what I please is very frustrating to me. I don't rip them out of the drawers and leave the rest a mess. I always carefully remove them and put other clothes back the way they were. When I take clothing from a drawer instead of the closet, it instantly sours her mood and the morning becomes very tense, to the point where she passive-aggressively asks, "Should I just throw all your clothes in the closet in the garbage?" and has not put laundry away for the entirety of the week because, "What's the point? You're just going to wear whatever anyway." I might wear those clothes again, just not that day. And yes, maybe a few can go to the donation bin because I'm not wearing them as much, which is what I've said in response. But to me, that isn't something to get so upset about that you have a nasty attitude with your spouse over it. and leave the house for work in a terrible mood. I see this as controlling, and she sees my behavior as insensitive. But me wearing clothes out of order does nothing to our home or health and has no negative impact on our lives other than her frustration with me not adhering to her system. Is this her being neurotic and controlling, or am I the jerk? Not the jerk. This whole clothes in order thing is so confounding, it's hard for me to understand, at least especially that it's your clothes done by her. Of course you should be able to wear whatever you want whenever you want. If you have space, I'd suggest keeping your clothes separate, or at least you being in charge of where your own clothes go. You hang up whatever you want, and you organize your clothes however you want to. It is rather controlling, and I don't know if she has OCD or something, because it's pretty intense to be that invested in what your spouse wears. I don't think I'd be able to live with someone who insisted that I keep my clothes the way they want them, and then gets mad when I wear what I want. My boyfriend and I keep our clothing separate and have different systems to how they're kept and such. Am I the jerk for not wanting to walk her down the aisle or lie in a speech? I, 41 male, have 2 kids with my ex-wife, 42 female, a son, John, who's 22, and a daughter, Sally, who's 20. I'm remarried to my current wife, who's 28. I'm very close with my kids. My son is engaged to Abby. She seems nice, but has been a bit pushy trying to create relationships with me and my wife, though she's also awkward with her. Abby isn't close to her family. She told us many stories of why, and while some of her complaints don't seem awful, it's not my place to judge and I didn't live it, so I can't know anyway. We've tried to be welcoming, but Abby has forced her way into some family traditions where she wouldn't have been invited, and some where no one outside of specific family would have. She's been calling Sally sis since they were only dating a few months. Has an odd sister/mother-in-law thing she does with my wife, and I'm not a fan of it. She wants me to be like a father to her. Not because we've clicked or anything, we are very different people. Not saying that in a bad way, just saying it's not based on how we get along or anything. My kids and I have a tradition where they come over and we have a private catch-up in my office and study before they leave, which is now even more important to them because while they both get along well with my wife, they don't want to have personal conversations around her yet. Abby asked if we could talk, and after I explained the tradition, John later asked that I do it, saying she had never had a caring conversation with her dad. We compromised that I didn't include her in the tradition, but I do join the 2 of them for coffee and let her talk. Then she started calling me Dad. They weren't even engaged yet. John pulled me aside and begged me to give her that. Laid this whole thing on me about always being the dad she always wanted right in front of her, and she just wanted that. Told me she cried watching me and Sally together. She still gives me random hugs. I'm a lucky dad. I didn't like it, but I do feel bad, so fine, I gave her that. She wants me to walk her down the aisle and do the father-daughter dance. I don't want to walk her down the aisle, and I walk with a cane, so dancing is hard. At my own wedding, I only danced twice. John is begging for me to do one, preferably the aisle. They came over Sunday. John and I were talking. I thought to address it when Abby walked in without knocking, asking if he had told me yet. I asked what. John said she wanted me to say something about having a second daughter now in my speech and how I loved her. I just looked at him. She asked if I'd do the walk and dance for Sally. I said of course. She yelled she's my daughter too, and I said it would never be the same. Sally is my actual daughter. I tried to explain I'd talk about her being a happy addition to the family, and I love how happy she makes John, which I thought was a good compromise. But she started crying. John apologized and they left, but he called me when they were home, nearly begging me to. Am I the jerk because I won't lie and say I love her or she's my daughter? Not the jerk. You have your boundaries. Abby sounds like she's developed this fantasy about y'all. That can't be healthy. Major red flags. Not the jerk. Abby needs therapy. She's clearly starved for some kind of family, desperate enough to try to infiltrate yours and oblivious of boundaries. I don't feel good about John marrying her. She sounds pretty unstable. You lost me at my wife who's 28. It's a little odd that you're so hung up on these traditions and a rigid family dynamic, but you married someone who's only 6 years older than your son. OP. I'm hung up on these traditions because as a parent, I love that my kids still want to continue sweet traditions that we started when they were younger. I don't feel the need to defend my relationship. I would agree that you'd had a point if we had been together 6 years or something, but she was in her mid-20s when we met. My kids like her. It has not been an issue. Karen introduced herself by handing me a printout of city rules. My husband and I bought our first home in May. Our yard and our neighbors' yards are all connected. Large lots, no fences, except a little creek that runs through the backyards with bridges across it. Also, the streets are all dead ends, so we have like 7 yards back to back. We have a 4-year-old dog who is 55 pounds of golden fluff. He is protective of our property. Not aggressive, just will bark if you come into our yard. Our driveway is in the back, so he generally won't stray past the driveway line to the next door neighbor's yard. We decided to add another dog to the family a couple of months later. I work really hard to train my dogs, but puppies are just puppies sometimes. The dogs are never outside without me or my husband. We don't leave them unattended. Pup was learning her yard and boundaries, which takes a minute without a fence. Anyway, our neighbors directly on both sides of us are super friendly and have dogs that run around too. Diagonal to our backyard, about 1/2 an acre away, is this older couple that is always gardening. They have never waved or said hi or anything. One day I'm sitting out back with my dogs and my cousin and her dog. We played some fetch and started a fire going in the fire pit. All of a sudden, this old couple walked from around the house and down our driveway. Our big dog is barking at them, so I'm trying to quiet him. The couple just proceeds to hand me a printed out city ordinance paper and tells me my dogs are running at large and they will call the city to have them taken away. It clearly states on the paper that a dog is not deemed running at large if it A. is in the owner's yard, B. has permission to be in a neighboring yard, aka our next door neighbors don't care, and a few other things, of which we aren't violating. We are young and definitely not the fanciest of the neighbors, but we care deeply to respect and have a good relationship with the families on our block. Additionally, I'm a very easygoing person to talk to, so I tell them that the other 4 dogs run around and come to our yard, so are you going to report them? They said, "We just spoke to your next door neighbors and they hate your dogs." We talk to the next door neighbors every day. Their dog frequents our yard for visits, so I told the couple, if they, next door, have an issue with me or my dogs, they're welcome to come discuss it with me themselves. We have literally asked them multiple times if it's cool if our dogs fetch occasionally in their yard and they don't care. They continue to argue with me about the ordinances, and I'm trying to politely tell them I am not breaking any codes, and if they want to call the city, they can go ahead and do that. Basically, it takes forever for the conversation to get to the actual issue, which turns out is that they have a little pond in their backyard, and one time my pup got near their pond. I tell them, "I'm so sorry my dog got near your pond. I will make sure she doesn't go to your yard again." They won't leave my driveway and continue to spew off complaints about it. I'm starting to get a little shaky. I don't care for unnecessary conflict, and I was getting angry, which I don't often. I'm just saying over and over again that I'm sorry the puppy came near their pond. They then tell me that my big dog was out all night barking, and they're going to complain to the city about it. He is my shadow, literally doesn't leave my side, and my dogs are never out at night barking. I was in bed with the dogs by 8:30 that particular evening, which I tell the couple. Finally, I'm just like, call the city, I don't care, but you need to leave my property. My dog follows them, barking at them to the edge of my driveway, and then stops and turns around when he hits the neighbor's yard. I was so annoyed, I was just telling him, "Good boy," as he barked them away. The thing that really irked me about this situation was that they never introduced themselves. Literally, they could have just come over and said, "Hey, we're your neighbors, and your puppy got near our pond. Can you make sure she doesn't do that again?" Simple. I checked in with the next door neighbors about it, and they said it took about 15 years to have a pleasant conversation with this couple. When I take the dogs out now and they're gardening, they just glare at me. But maybe in 15 years, well, they'll probably be dead and gone. Well, who do you agree with? OP or her neighbors? Please let us know. I'm just thinking about that creek that runs through their neighborhood with the yards. It sounds really nice, to be honest. Ruined a bad roommate's life. So I moved into a 4-bedroom uni house. I knew 2 of my housemates. Let's call them Abby and Ben. Due to unfortunate circumstances, our previously planned housemate didn't live with us, so we found a new one, Chloe. Chloe is a horrible housemate. This became apparent when they never paid any bills or rent on time, smokes like a chimney inside against our agreement, leaves home for a few days, leaving a big pile of washing up for us to do, including our pots and pans. Scream gaming on their laptop all the way till 5 a.m. Walls are thin, just to name a few things. Basically, they suck. So it gets till about 4 months in. We cannot stand Chloe. So we have a house meeting. Basically, we sit there and try to explain how we would prefer they don't scream at their laptop. I assume gaming, until 5 a.m. every night as all of us get up early. Everything we bring up, Chloe denied it. We have each lent Chloe a month's rent and bills too, and Chloe hasn't paid any of us back, over $1,000 between us. Chloe denied it, saying, "I don't owe you." This point, me, Abby, and Ben are all pretty upset. Then, a few weeks later was a Saturday night, and being students, Abby and Ben and me invited friends around for pre-drinks. We asked Chloe first, and they said they'd be out, so it was fine. Turns out, they finished work early, so they came home and were shocked to find people there. Went up to their room. They kept coming down and turning the music down. It wasn't even loud in the first place. Chloe got so angry and threw my speaker out the window. I didn't see Chloe do it, but loads of people told me so. I had had enough. I went to get my speaker back, and Chloe came out with me to my surprise. And as Chloe left in full visibility of me, she keyed my car parked on the driveway. I got up with my speaker and shouted as she walked off. Luckily, we have an automatic light on the side of the house, and a car was driving down my road at the time, and the driver said they had a dash cam and probably caught it out the window to me. I stopped shouting in disbelief and gave him my email address, went about my night and joined the party. When it was time to leave, a lot of us hadn't finished our drinks, so left them on the kitchen table and left. When we got back the next day and had sobered up in the morning, we found all the drinks had been taken, along with the speaker, some headphones, and my laptop. Now I was really mad. The revenge. I logged into my housemate's laptop on my email. This guy had pulled through, sent me a small clip of Chloe keying the car along with several close-up stills showing the key in contact. I first confronted Chloe, asking if they knew where my stuff was, while Abby and Ben secretly recorded on their phones. Things got heated, and they looked like they were going to fight me. I'm a big guy, 6'4", and I'm really not scared. I'm basically just upsetting Chloe. Chloe then swung her fist at me a few times, making contact. I didn't fight back. I put my hands and arms over my head and face. Chloe then stomps off, thinking they won. Let me remind you, Abby and Ben were recording. I call the police. They show up. I basically say I have a good reason to believe Chloe stole my drinks and other possessions. They go up and knock on Chloe's door. Go away! They can't go in without a search warrant. I file a report about assault and the things stolen relating the two. The police are very nice and basically tell me how to fill it in. They come back the next day with a warrant for Chloe's arrest for assault and battery. They then search her room and find all the stolen bottles, my headphones, which clearly were mine as they were only paired with my phone, and my laptop and damaged speaker. I sued Chloe and won. I had indisputable evidence along with witnesses for all of the events. I got around $3,000 for the car, speaker, and rent that Chloe owed us, and an additional $5,000. Chloe went to prison for resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, assault, destruction of property, theft, and battery. Chloe still had to pay rent for her room, which we used as a gym. Have you ever had a horrible roommate? If so, what did they do wrong? Please let us know. Horrible roommate? Try living with Reddit boy over here. Am I the jerk for refusing baby items from another pregnant family member? My husband and I, both 30, are expecting our first child at the end of this year. A month after we announced our pregnancy, my husband's 17-year-old cousin announces hers. This is not a jealousy issue. If anything, her pregnancy has taken us out of the spotlight of important family happenings to our relief. We are quiet people, and while we are excited and hopeful, this is our first baby to make it this far after several miscarriages, so we're trying to stay calm through this, just in case. Us being the way we are, we do not do baby showers. Thanks to lockdown, I have a solid excuse to avoid them. We do not ask for gifts. We enjoy being able to quietly take care of ourselves. The cousin has been going on about her pregnancy as many people do, having family gatherings, baby showers with over 30 people, etc., and has received a lot of gifts. This is where the issue takes place. My mother-in-law calls every couple of days to tell me that the cousin has an extra tub or extra boxes of diapers, etc., and that she wants to give them to me. I want what I picked out for my baby, not someone else's leftovers. I have the means to buy my son what I want him to have, and if I needed someone else's charity to raise a kid, I would not have gotten pregnant in the first place. I've been politely turning these gifts down. Knowing the way my mother-in-law is, I will eventually have to be firm and tell her how I feel. You do not want to hear about the guilt trip she put me through after I denied her to throw us a baby shower. If I say to her what I said above about the leftover gifts, will I be the jerk? Edit. Whoa, guys, thank you. You really made me see how entitled and jerky I sound. Pregnancy hormones are something else, and I truly believed that what I said above was perfectly normal. I will accept the gifts. I will be more open towards my in-laws, and I will try to get closer to his cousin and help her in any way she needs. My son needs his family, and he's not going to have one if I let my antisocial behavior get in the way. I rarely post to Reddit, and I thought for a long time before I posted to this sub. I expected no one to respond. When I opened up my inbox to see 30 strangers calling me names, it really helped me get that ego in check. Thank you. Edit 2. Good morning. I eventually had to go to bed, and by to bed, I mean stare at the ceiling and think about my life decisions and who the heck I think I am. I wish I could reply to everyone that has commented, but I've stared at my phone more in the past 12 hours than I have in the last month, and all of my eyeballs hurt. I want to thank you all for commenting. The more harsh critics who had to lay down the hard truths to those few who boldly stuck up for me among a sea of you're the jerks. To the you're the jerks still pouring in by the minute, 10-4 y'all, I know. Thanks to all of your feedback and advice, I have learned how to deal with this situation and situations in the future. I will be more considerate of others' feelings and be more open to including all family and friends when they show interest in my life. And Lord, think about what Reddit would say before I open my mouth. Well, what do you think? Was OP the jerk or not? Please let us know. I'll take some of that baby stuff if you don't want it. I haven't told him yet, but Mr. Reddit and I are expecting. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Boss asks me to report 100% of vehicle damage. I used to work as a supervisor of a security team at a large industrial facility. I had a good relationship with the manager, we'll call him Dave, until he appointed his friend as a middle manager, we'll call him Steve, between the supervisors and himself. I did not have a good relationship with Steve at all, and suddenly Dave started rejecting ideas, suggestions, and requests out of hand. The friendly guy that I used to go and have sit-down chats with regularly became standoffish and outwardly hostile at times. The staff all noticed this as well and would frequently comment that they didn't know what I'd done to Dave and Steve, but it was clear that I was being bullied all of a sudden. It's entirely fair to say that I couldn't do right for doing wrong all the time, and every little thing I did or did not do resulted in a lengthy email conversation with Dave and Steve. There's a lot I could add to this, but for the sake of brevity, I'm going to move on to the point of my story. The site we had to patrol was about 5 square miles, so vehicles were provided so that we could patrol effectively and carry equipment and personnel to required locations. Part of my duties at the start of the shift were ensuring that the vehicles had not been damaged on the previous shift and that all vehicles had the required levels of equipment in them. The first patrol went out the moment our shift started, and as this was a regulatory requirement, could not be delayed or skipped. This was the start of a night shift, and so it was dark, very dark. We had maglite torches, but after 6 years of use, they weren't exactly brilliant. I didn't find any new damage, and so recorded that the vehicle was okay, and recorded their mileage on our check sheets. The next night when I came in, I had a very angry in tone email from Dave demanding to know why my team had damaged one of the vehicles on the previous night. Apparently, the vehicle looked as if it had been reversed into a wall. I immediately went to check the vehicle and found 2 extremely small divots in the rear bumper. I found them not by looking, but by feeling the bumper. I simply could not see them at all using the light available to me at the time. I then went and asked all my team, and all of them insisted they had not even used the vehicle. I went and checked the vehicle sheet rounds and found, true to my team's word, that the mileage on the day shift sheets was identical to the night shift sheets. The vehicle had not been moved. I sent an email back to Dave informing him that the vehicle hadn't been used by us and apologized for missing the damage. However, lighting had made that extremely difficult. This was my last shift before my scheduled days off, so I was certain that Steve would be pushing Dave to punish me for something by the time I got back. Sure enough, on my first day back in, I was summoned to Dave's office for what we British politely refer to as a bollocking. Dave insisted that he could see the damage in the dark and could actually spot it from about 10 meters away. For context, all of my guys had been shown the damage, and all of them, without fail, had said, "Where?" when I pointed it out at close range. Not only that, but there was now additional damage that I hadn't spotted and my team was also now responsible for. Luckily, my boss had included a photograph of the damage I had missed. In the photo, I saw no scratch. For Dave and Steve, however, this was good enough to be punitive towards me and my team and told me that unless the culprit was found and named, I would be held personally responsible and would have to pay the insurance excess to get it fixed. Dave also insisted that the lighting was more than sufficient to spot the damage on the vehicles. I told Dave that this was ridiculous and he couldn't enforce financial penalties on a vehicle that had, again, not been used by my team. Dave was insistent though. It was my job to report 100% of the damage on the vehicles or I would be held responsible. And at this point, something clicked in my mind, and luckily, Dave decided to back up his instruction with an email that Steve was CC'd into. The next shift, I refused to allow my team members to use the vehicles until they had all been fully checked. Inside, outside, underneath, mechanically, and equipment levels. Each vehicle took about 2 hours. I photographed every single small bit of damage that I found, no matter how insignificant or whether it had been reported previously. Remember, the instruction was to report 100% of damage, not 100% of unreported damage, and sent it all in an email to Dave with a text description of the nature and location of the damage for each photograph. There were about 162 photographs in total. The first patrol could not be skipped, and so I had to send out my officers on foot to patrol the site. This meant that the site patrol took nearly 3 hours and was not available to fulfill other duties afterwards. It's worth noting at this point that my team were also seeing this as a direct attack on them rather than just me, so were fully supportive of the measures I was taking. This resulted in the site shift manager demanding answers, to which I was able to tell the shift manager of Dave's instructions and why I was having to send officers out on foot. I had, and still do have, a great relationship with all of the site shift managers, and so, while he was frustrated, he understood the predicament I had been put in, especially when the instructions were shown to him in black and white. This resulted in a financial penalty for my company. Dave was off the next day, and so I did the exact same thing again, with the exact same amount of photographs, but all taken again on a fresh inspection. The night shift after, I came to work to find Dave waiting in the office for me. I was allowed to finish my handover with the off-going supervisor before Dave shut the door and refused to let me leave before he had discussed why he had received multiple emails, over 800 megabytes in total. I didn't compress or reduce the size of the photos, and how the company had received a financial penalty and the regulatory body were coming to speak to him. I reminded him that he had demanded that I report 100% of the damage on the vehicles and that this had taken time. I couldn't allow any member of the team to use any vehicle until they had been checked, as there could be financial penalties involved. Dave frustratedly pointed out that many of the pics were too dark to see anything anyway, and so most of the photographs were pointless. I apologized for the lighting, but pointed out that he said the lighting was more than sufficient to spot any damage, and so he should be able to easily see the damage I had reported. Dave insisted that I had deliberately misinterpreted his instructions and he would be taking it to a disciplinary. I informed him that this was no problem. If he could just let me know the date and time, I would inform my union rep, who had been fully appraised of the situation and was 100% behind my suggestion that I report every single tidy bit of damage on the vehicles. Dave was ultimately left with no choice but to drop any attempts to discipline me and left Steve to deal with me from that point on. Steve then took up the role of disciplinarian for the next 3 months until I left the job. However, every time he tried, I was able to shut it all down due to briefings with my union rep. I left the job in February of 2019 and still to this day receive complaints from members of staff who remain there about how terrible the job has gotten due to Dave and Steve. I don't work here. Yes, you do. You're now backstage security for Yellow Card. About 6 years ago on a Saturday night, I was hitting up a concert with some friends. Now, this venue had 2 parts. The main part was a restaurant/bar with a big outdoor venue that could fit about 1,500 people, and across the street was the second venue that could fit about 1,000. I got confused as to which venue I was heading to, accidentally parked at the main venue, saw my mistake, and walked across the street to the intended venue. Now, I had worked late that day and couldn't go home and change, so I was wearing a black polo shirt and black pants. After my concert ends, I walk back across the street to the main venue where I had parked. I try to take a shortcut around the building, only to find myself blocked by temp fences and barricades. I look to the left and see a couple of tour buses, walk towards those, and manage to walk in between them. I find myself in a loading/staging area with some hospitality tents and people walking around, while I'm hearing a band playing really close by. I grab a snack and a drink and ask a guy how to leave, and he points to the right. The only way to the right is this long ramp that leads around the building. So I walk up and follow it around the building, literally to the side of the stage where the band Yellow Card was playing live. I'm talking 10 feet away from me, tops. As I walk up, somewhat confused as to the scene in front of me, this woman with a clipboard and a headset walks up and asks me where my lanyard is. I kinda shrug and said, I don't have one. She gets upset and says, don't move. She's back in 5 seconds with a lanyard with an all-access pass and tells me to put it on. I try telling her I don't think I'm supposed to be here, but she snaps and tells me to shut it. She says to stay right there to guard the ramp to make sure no one accidentally tries to come that way, literally what I had just done, and walks away. So I spend the next 30 minutes on the side of their stage while they finish their set. After their encore, I head back to the hospitality area, grab some food, have a few drinks, mingle with some folks, etc. After a while, I see headset lady walking around, so I walk up to her, hand her the lanyard, thank her for the drinks and the show, and leave. Would I be the jerk if I asked my husband to return my Christmas present? So yesterday, I, 28 female, asked my husband, 39 male, to pick up the new Christmas tree I ordered from a nearby hardware store. When my husband came home, he asked me to go upstairs. He had gotten my Christmas gift and he didn't want me to see it. He hid it in the basement by throwing a blanket over it, but admitted that the size and shape would probably give it away when I had to go down to do laundry. It could only be one thing, a big box from the hardware store, a microwave. When I went to do laundry today, I could tell it's definitely a microwave, and a white one at that. I hate white appliances. All my other ones are black or stainless when possible. I had stupidly mentioned several weeks ago that I wanted to look into getting a new microwave in the summer. Our current one is like 660 to 700 watts at best, and slow, but otherwise working fine. I really enjoy spending time comparing models and features and finding the perfect one, and trying then to wait for a sale when I shop for things. It's almost like a game. A microwave is a very practical gift, and I feel bad, but I want to ask him to return it before he loses the receipt if he hasn't already. I know he didn't put much thought into it, probably saw a display while he was waiting at the customer service desk for the tree and bought it on a whim. I feel like if he had at least gotten the black model, I could say he was thinking of what I might like a little bit. I don't really want to be stuck with a microwave that I hate again for another 6 years. I've been waiting all this time to be able to pick one I really liked. Also, Christmas is the only time of year that I just would really like to get a nice treat that isn't necessarily practical. Like, I would be perfectly happy with a couple of bath bombs, or a nice scented candle, or maybe some chocolate. It's not a money thing at all. If anything, I feel like the microwave was probably too expensive. So, would I be the jerk if I asked him to return it, or should I just suck it up and pretend that I love it? Update. I talked to my husband once he got home, and I told him I appreciated that he was thinking a microwave would make things easier and faster for me, but I needed to have one that would work well for our family and kitchen since we would have it for a long time. He wanted to show me the microwave in detail, so we went down to look at the box. Turned out, he mixed up the cubic size and the watts, thinking a bigger cubic foot was strongest, so he accidentally bought an absolutely huge microwave. It's actually too big to even fit on the shelf our kitchen has, because we have a fairly limited kitchen space. He was pretty embarrassed, but I told him no big deal. But I would like to pick out one together with him, and it could be our gift for the house, not my specific Christmas gift. He agreed, and all is well between us, so I'm glad I decided to bring it up. Thank you. Rude actress tells me off. Whilst I was at uni, over 10 years ago now, I worked part-time in a popular clothing/accessory store. It was over Christmas, so really busy. The store is tiny, so gets full quickly. I'm on the tills and notice an older, very glamorous-looking lady waiting in the queue. She looks irritated and keeps looking at my coworker and I, as if to say, "Hurry up." The queue is very long, but we don't mess around and are pretty quick even if wrapping gifts. She gets to my till. I smile and say, "Hello, thanks for waiting," politely, as always, and proceed to scan and bag her items. I recognize her now that she's in front of me, but don't let on obviously. She's not super famous, but I know who she is, as I used to watch the soap she was on back in the day. Anyway, she's not interested in talking to me or even smiling, so I just get on with it. I say bye and she walks off. I call the next customer over, and before I've even had a chance to finish saying hello, I hear the beep 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 of the door alarms going off. The actress lady marches back over to me, cuts off the current customer, and says, "You have failed to remove the security tags." I say, "Sorry," although I'm certain I did remove them already. I check the items, then tell her there's no tags on them. I suggest it could be something else in her other bags, but she ignores me and storms off. I carry on serving my customer, but the alarm goes off again. Actress lady marches back, looking furious, and says, "Really? This is ridiculous. Why haven't you removed them? If it happens again, I will be asking for a refund." She barely looks at me and has such a horrible attitude. I'm a bit embarrassed now as there's a massive queue of people just staring. I take the items out of her bag, and yes, all the tags are off as they were to begin with. I'm getting a bit annoyed at her rudeness and quite curtly tell her, "There are no tags on these items. Look, I've checked twice. The alarms are being set off from something in your other bags." At this point, another coworker comes over and asks the lady if she can look in her bags just to check what's setting the alarms off. The lady does not even answer her, but just makes a kind of huffing noise and thrusts her bags out to the coworker. Coworker checks her bags and looks in another store's bag. Lo and behold, there is a security tag left on something she purchased. Coworker double checks by putting it through the alarms. The lady, who's still stood in front of the till, kind of raises her chin and looks at me. I just gave her a big smug smile, raising my eyebrows, and carry on talking to the current customer, saying, "Thank you for being so patient." Rude lady doesn't even say sorry, thank you, or bye. She just storms out as if it was our fault another store left the security tag on. Am I the jerk for telling my parents their pets aren't welcome in my home? My husband is very allergic to all forms of animal fur, dandruff, and saliva. If he's around them, his eyes swell, get watery and itchy, his nose starts to run, and he has a hard time breathing. He's done all of the allergy shots, takes allergy meds every day, he just simply cannot tolerate animals. He's been this way since he was a kid, it'll never change. My parents give literally zero hoots. If we go visit them, they say, "Just tell him to take an extra pill and get over it." He never complains. He suffers in silence, and they make constant comments about how he's being antisocial. No, he can't breathe and feels like crap. Then I end up miserable because he snores so bad when he has a flare-up that I can't sleep. We're supposed to be hosting Thanksgiving, and my mother dropped on us that they plan on bringing their pets with them. I put my foot down and said, "No, you will not bring them and make my husband miserable in our home. He tolerates it when he goes to your home because they're your pets. We don't expect them to kennel them or anything when we visit, but you'll respect our boundaries in our home." I was shocked. She thought it was perfectly acceptable to just state, "We're bringing the animals," knowing he is very allergic. It wasn't even an ask, it was a tell. She's now decided that they will no longer be coming because their pets aren't welcome in our home. So Reddit, am I the jerk here? Edit. My husband has tolerated my parents' shenanigans for my sake. I was raised to obey your parents above all things. If they said we had to stay with them, that was that. It was non-negotiable. The last time we visited, last Christmas, we stayed at my brother's house because he asked me to stay there instead of at my parents'. It took many sessions with my therapist to stand up to them. This was a huge step for me to go against their wishes and do what I wanted for myself and my husband. It caused a giant fight between us and my parents. We haven't visited since and don't plan to. My sister demanded we share my daughter. Okay, so this happened a few years ago, but I remember it like it was yesterday, and to be honest, still can't understand what my sister was thinking. A little backstory. My sister and I had to share everything as kids. Not to mention, I was forced to be her and our younger brother's second mother, but I'll put that in a different post. For some of my childhood, I was happy to share things with my sister. Sweets, snacks, toys, the normal kid things. There's 4 years between us. I'm the oldest, and as you can probably guess, when I reached my teen years, I wanted my own things and to spend time alone. Nope, she wanted me to do everything with her. I could barely spend 10 minutes in the bathroom before she would start banging on the door. Unfortunately, when I was around 15, my siblings and I were taken into foster care. We were separated from our brother, which was difficult for both of us, and for a while, I didn't mind my sister wanting to spend all her time with me. Shortly after my 16th birthday, I wanted to have my own space and things that are, well, mine. She would argue with me over not sharing my stuff, and of course, typical sibling fights and yelling happened almost every other day. We sort of grew out of our sibling squabbles over the years, but she kind of developed a "the world owes me" attitude, which drove me crazy. I did my best to hold in my frustrations, but I'm human, and sometimes I kind of snapped. A couple years after my daughter was born, my sister and I weren't really talking much because of her selfish attitude towards me spending most of my time and income on my daughter. During one of the times we were on good terms, she was over for the weekend and everything was okay. Until a conversation led to her telling me she was going to take my daughter for a week because she wanted to spend time with her because it was her turn. I said, not gonna happen. She's my daughter, not a doll or a pet we share. She gets mad and starts yelling. I told her to leave, and she argues how she had parental rights, and social services will force me to allow her to take my daughter whenever she wants. I laughed, told her to get out and don't come back. Honestly, I don't know if she seriously thought that it was her right to have my daughter. I've got plenty of other insane stories about my family, which I may post about at some point. Thanks for reading my crazy story. Karen decides she needs my cat. I own 3 cats, which are all indoor cats and don't go outside. I've had 2 of them since kittens, and the other since he was about 7. Anyways, one night I get a text message from a random number. I didn't recognize it at the time, but later found out who it was in text conversation. At 11 p.m., I get a call that I missed since I was sleeping. I ignore it, but the next day they send me a text message, which proceeds to a conversation. Karen: Hey, you have a ginger cat, right? Yes, what can I do for you? And who are you? Karen: Hi. So basically your aunt told me you have a cat when I called her. We are friends. And I was wondering if I can have it for my kid since you have 3. No, you cannot. I've had him since he was a kitten, and I wouldn't take £1 million for him. He's not for sale or to give away. Yeah, but I have a kid who really wants your ginger cat. We saw a pic, and he looks really cute. And besides, you have 3. As I said, you can give up 1. And my son really wants it. He loves cats. Look, sorry whoever you are, but as I already explained, it's a no. I love all my cats, and it would heartbreak me and him if I gave him away. Wow, you're so selfish. How can you get heartbroken when you have 3 and we have none? You're just being a jerk. And I'm a friend of your family, so it would be respectful if you gave one away. But I don't know anyone else with a cat like yours. Do you really think adding insults is going to further convince me? Also, it's quite ironic you suggest I'm selfish. I don't see my cats as property, and I don't even know you. In fact, no one could convince me to give away any of my cats. In addition, if somehow I did accept this, which I would never do to anyone, what exactly would I gain from this? Nothing apart from my sadness that I lost one of my cats. Now stop with the childish insults, and don't contact me further about this. Karen: Wow, buzz off, you jerk. You are not entitled to my pets. Maybe teach your kids and yourself not to be so entitled that your demands hurt others. I'm telling your aunt, you were so rude to me and being so selfish. I mean, you have 3 cats, we have 0. You will see how sorry you are when she takes away all of your cats and gives them to us for compensation, jerk. I'm 26. My aunt does not have any authority to take away my pets, nor would she agree with you. You should acknowledge that. Luckily, my friends are jerks like you, so she will. Okay, sport. Edit. Forgot to mention, but they did not contact my aunt after all this, despite saying they would. I told my aunt about it, and in response, distance/cut relations with her. Also, she wasn't great friends with her to start with, but generally someone she speaks to on occasion, and that was that. Speaking of cats, do you have a cat? And if so, what's their name? Please let us know. I wish I had a cat. All I have is big-headed Reddit boy over here. My parents are demanding that I, 19 female, pay them rent. I, 19 female, am at an impasse with my parents, who are 46 and 44, regarding rent for the house that we all live in. Background: when I was in early high school, my grandmother unfortunately passed away. In her will, she left half of her house to her mother and half to me. She had no other relatives. My whole family moved to grandmother's house, and we've been living there ever since. When I finished high school, I enrolled into a local college, and honestly, it didn't make much sense to move onto campus as living at home allowed me to save money. So I continued to live at home. Grandma's money also helped cover my tuition, and I have a YouTube channel that generates some income, so I can cover my living expenses and have some left over. However, my parents are not happy that I continue to live at home and yet refuse to obey their home rules, like curfew or how much time I spend playing video games, even though video games actually generate my income, or that I don't come upstairs to join them for meals, and instead I cook my own in the kitchenette downstairs. So they tried to pull the "our home, our rules, either you pay rent or get out" spiel, and I pointed out that it's as much my house as it is my mother's, and whatever rent they charge me, I can charge my father as he isn't on the house deed. I don't mind contributing towards groceries, utilities, and house taxes, but they can't charge me rent for living in a house that I illegally own, nor can they kick me out. I'm not a kid anymore, and I'm not a tenant. They're upset that I dared to throw "my house, my rules" into their faces. Am I the jerk? Update. All these replies made me realize that my parents might think I'm paying for the occurring expenses with inheritance, not with my streaming income, and they might not understand how much I'm actually making playing video games. I'll show them the printouts for the last 3 months and see what happens. Wish me luck. Update 2. I know how much the house is appraised for. I pay my portion of the house tax, homeowner's insurance, utilities, maintenance, etc. And I'm saving up for the big house repair that's coming up in 3 years. Update 3. I talked to my parents in detail and explained to them what exactly I'm doing when I'm playing video games in funny costumes, with printouts of time that it takes to set up the stage, editing time, script writing, etc. You guys were right. They legit had no idea it can be a viable source of income with prep and thought that I was just squandering the inheritance on video games. We set my working hours and figured out family time schedule, and they dropped the whole rent issue. Thanks, y'all. Well, you know what? If your parents get to the point of really upsetting you, you can force a sale of the house. It might be relationship ending, but if they anger you enough that you don't even care, you can consult a lawyer and a real estate agent and rock your parents' world. That being said, while you may technically own half that house, utilities, taxes, insurance, and upkeep are ongoing expenses, and they can be substantial and they're totally necessary. If you're paying your part of those bills, you can tell your parents and their rules to buzz off. And let your parents know you have options. Not the jerk. Not the jerk. They can't charge you for rent in a place that you own. If anything, only your dad can be charged for rent in this situation, unless there's others in the house too. I'd push this situation and make them buy you out. This doesn't bode well for you. My girlfriend pranks her male friend, and now I'm wondering if the pranks are actually flirting. My girlfriend of 2 years has had this male friend for a while. His name is Declan, and I'm not his biggest fan, but I didn't want to impede on their friendship. So she told me last week that Declan pranked her by calling her up and pretending to be Jack Nicholson with one of those soundboards, so she wants to get him back. So, as a joke, the next time we were over at his place, she used his landline to call a love hotline that charged by the minute, and then just left the phone there. Declan gets charged like $200 for it. So Declan strikes back at her again. At this point, they're still just being goofy, and I don't really mind. He comes over to her place for a party she was throwing, then hides this creepy doll in her closet. She finds it, freaks out, but then starts laughing. Now she wants to prank Declan even more. So she knows he's scared of clowns, and she literally makes this giant papier-mâché clown statue that's hollow on the inside. She wants to put it in his house. Apparently his roommate will let her in or something, then hide in it all night and pop out of it as soon as he notices it. So I tell her this seems a little extreme, but she does it anyway. Fast forward to that night. I get a call from my girlfriend because Declan apparently attacked as soon as he saw her pop out of the clown thing, totally as a knee-jerk reaction because he didn't even know it was her. Now she wants to continue pranking him. At this point, should I just put my foot down? Update. I talked to my girlfriend about Declan, and I told her that the pranks are getting dangerous, and she's unreasonably close to a guy she's only known for such a short amount of time. She refers to him as her brother and her BFF, but it's literally been 5 months. I thought she would react in a mature way, but instead, she said, almost word for word, "This is why I'm always pranking Declan. At least Declan has a good sense of humor. I wouldn't even need to hang out with Declan if you weren't so uptight." So at least now I have confirmation that she hangs out with Declan specifically because she thinks I'm not good enough. We wind up having a screaming match, and the door rings and she goes and gets it. It's this guy in a giant gorilla costume who barges in. Immediately, I assumed it's Declan, so I attacked him. He takes off the mask. It's Declan's roommate, Chad. Apparently, Declan paid Chad $100 to scare us in the gorilla suit as a diversion because he was right behind Chad. Declan snuck into our bedroom and put ham underneath the mattress cover. So I tell both of these dudes to get out and stop pranking us. I thought I was finally standing up to Declan when finally my girlfriend tells me that the prank was hilarious and she's going to give me time to cool off. She leaves with Chad and Declan. I haven't heard from her yet today, but I saw her post a picture of a bagel on Instagram this morning, so I know she's awake. I still don't know where she slept last night or what happened with Declan. I want to break up because I'm so angry, but weirdly enough, I still really love her. I can't help it, and I don't want to waste 2 years. Final update. I broke up with my girlfriend. I told her pretty much exactly what was suggested. I even told her that I thought her behavior with Declan was already an emotional affair, if not a physical one. Not surprisingly, she flipped out at me and told me I was being controlling. She told me that every ex-boyfriend she's had has been this way, and I fall right into that category. Because she's only kind of living with me, and technically not on the lease, she's just slowly been staying here more often and she has a key. It was pretty easy for me to kick her out. When I asked her if she was going to move in with Declan, she told me it was no longer my business. Anyway, that night I tried to relax. I was pretty upset, but pretty sure in my decision to dump her, and I felt like I could start new, meet someone else, etc. Then I got a bunch of random calls on my phone from a restricted number. When I picked up, nobody was there. So I turned my phone on silent, figuring this was one of her immature schemes, and in the morning I had 60 missed calls from restricted numbers. In the morning, I actually got a text from Declan asking to come over to pick up my girlfriend's stuff. So, yes, she moved in with him. I tried to be civil because I really just wanted to get her stuff out of my apartment, but I also wanted closure. So when he got here, I just told him that his relationship with her directly influenced the breakup and that I know they're together now. Now, this is where things got weird. Declan looks at me, surprised, and tells me that he doesn't think my girlfriend is into him and that he definitely isn't into her. I told him to cut the crap, that it doesn't matter anymore. He seemed to be getting anxious and panicky, so I told him to calm down. I just wanted to know the truth. Then he tells me that he knows he directly contributed to our breakup, but not in the way I think. Apparently, it was Chad, not Declan, who wanted to steal my girlfriend. Chad was too shy and asked Declan to befriend my girlfriend and act as a wingman. Declan has tons of female friends, so Chad thought he would effectively gain her trust and be a good in. Declan insisted the reason he kept pranking her and being goofy was because he was hoping it would paint their relationship as clearly non-romantic. Apparently, Chad paid him back for all the times he had to lose money in a prank. I told him, well, that was a stupid plan because my girlfriend moved in with you specifically to be with you, so that sucks for all three of you. Declan got extremely upset and seemed to be practically shaking at the idea that my girlfriend had feelings for him. So now my girlfriend, well, my ex, is living with the guy she has a crush on who has no feelings for her, and a guy who has a crush on her but was too creepy and weird to say it. I hope they all have fun together. I'm sure she will contact me again once it dawns on her that the wrong guy is interested. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that his grown nephew and his girlfriend cannot move in? My husband's nephew moved into his grandparents' home at 16. He's now 24 and is still living at his grandparents' home with his girlfriend that does not work and her 7-year-old daughter. They don't clean much, if at all, and they're sloppy in many ways. Just recently, husband's father passed away, the grandpa, and nephew is still living there without paying bills. We're in the process of closing the estate. He will have to either move or find a way to pay all of the bills. He does not make enough, and his girlfriend, who's 28, does not work. My husband wants to move them into our home so he can keep his inheritance of his dad's 401k, muscle cars, etc. I don't want them to move in. We don't have any kids. We're both 40 and we have 3 cats. I feel that if they move in, they will not leave. In fact, I'm about 97% sure of this. The fact that nephew's girlfriend does not work or support her own kid that's not even his really bothers me. I halfway caved and said the nephew can move in, but husband said he's not breaking up a family. They're not married, and I feel this is too much. Husband could give them money to set them up in an apartment or a townhome, something, but he feels that's setting them up for failure, that in a year he would be back with nowhere to live. I feel this is not our responsibility to take care of grown nephew and the people he chooses to date, nor is it our responsibility if he goes out into the world and cannot make it on his own, though I would help them as long as real effort is being made. This has caused a huge rift between us. Husband at this point has said he will do whatever he feels is necessary and I can deal with it. I said in anger that if he does, I'll be moving out along with my animals. I know if they do move in, I'll end up going off on them and asking them to move out. I do not do well with others in my living space. I need my sanctuary or my anxiety goes through the roof. So it's looking like either way, I'm out of luck. So am I the jerk for not wanting to take them in? Edit. The nephew is doing the best he can with the amount he makes and he's trying. His girlfriend is not and sleeping until noon daily. Will not get a driver's license even though we bought her a car. Most mornings she doesn't even take her kid to the bus stop. My nephew has to do it, as well as any effort to clean up. Her kid is in elementary school and is not home between 8 to 3:30 p.m. Edit. Husband has just now went back to work after taking care of his father who passed from cancer. He had to go into his retirement fund to do so and was out of work for 6 months. He wants us to use funds from the estate to replace his retirement funds that were used. Husband has always taken my feelings into account in all things, but this time he doesn't seem to care. I know it's due to stress, and he seems to think that this is the right thing to do. His parents always took in stragglers, but that's not my way. He has an issue with the kid being upset and breaking up his nephew's family. Husband's family has always been low on money. I believe a lot of that was due to taking in all of these people who don't work or contribute. Maybe husband thinks that this is what you're supposed to do. Not the jerk. He chose his nephew, not you. Time to create an exit strategy. Find an attorney and begin legal separation. Give him 6 months to figure out the stupidity of his position. When he has no one to offset the consequences of his decision, such as living in a messy house, he may change his mind. Not the jerk. This is a hill to die on because it will only get worse if they move in. Your husband is being greedy about the inheritance and may expect you to shoulder the responsibility of housing and feeding 2 useless adults. Legally, if they live with you for any length of time, you will have to go to court to kick them out. If your husband keeps going, move out. The life in marriage as you know it will be over. Or move out and date your husband, but let him live with the 2 slobs to realize the consequences of his decision. My boyfriend and his sister-in-law snuck out to the beach at 3 a.m. So we've been together for a year. We were visiting his parents' house, who lived by the beach, and his brother was also there with his wife. We stayed there last night, and around 3 a.m. I was half asleep and noticed him leaving the room. I thought he was probably going to the bathroom or something. I heard some noises from downstairs, and I wasn't paying attention until I saw from the window that he was going out to the beach with his brother's wife. They came back about an hour later. I still haven't confronted him and was wondering what this could mean. What was it that they needed to do? I don't know what to think. Is it something that I can be upset about? Sneaking around at night isn't cool in my opinion. Update. As much as I wanted to tell you all that it was over nothing, that they just wanted to get out for some fresh air or something else, that's not the case. They were indeed hooking up. I asked my boyfriend about it. Didn't mention that I saw him go out with her, just that I saw him leave the bed and come back later. He told me that he just went to the bathroom and then saw his dad in the kitchen who couldn't sleep, so they had to chat for a while. Liar. I asked his sister-in-law immediately after that, said that I saw her from the window for a second. Was I just imagining it since I was half asleep, or did she go out alone at that time of night? She said that she enjoys midnight breaths and walks alone on the beach. Liar again. I told his brother that I saw them leave. He told me that they enjoy long walks on the beach. He couldn't be bothered to go with them. I thought, liar. So apparently they gave each other the heads up since my boyfriend came to me and told me everything an hour later. Him and his brother don't mind it. They're okay with that sort of thing. So my boyfriend has been hooking up with her for years now. That night was just another moment. He told me that he wanted to tell me when the time was right or when he thought I'd be prepared so that I could hook up with his brother and they wouldn't need to sneak around anymore. He wasn't even admitting that it was cheating, saying that it doesn't count since it's his sister-in-law, not some random girl. I don't even know what to say to that. He called me traditional for thinking it was cheating. Yeah, I consider that cheating. Call me traditional. So I broke up with him and left him to deal with this weird stuff himself, and I'm actually happier now. The thought of what he was up to all those times really grosses me out. He can buzz off. We wanted to go on a holiday together. Now I'm gonna go have fun with my cousins instead. Am I the jerk for saying I'm glad I was adopted separately from my siblings? I'm 28, male. My biological mother was unequipped to take care of kids, but it wasn't something anyone realized until she was already 5 kids in. I was the oldest. I was 5 when my first sibling was born and instantly became a father figure. 3 of my siblings have the same dad, myself and my brother have different dads, and learned how to do everything very young. When my mom was in a good space, she'd help, but I was still doing most of the work. When I was 13 and my siblings were 8, 7, 5, and 4, we were removed from my mother's custody. Our social worker and our first foster home realized that I was struggling to let go of being the parent. I also had other issues they felt would do better with therapy and a home where I was the only child. My siblings were placed in a new foster home where they were eventually adopted. I was placed in a separate home with amazing foster parents who were patient and willing to help me find my way. I was adopted 2 years in when I was 15. I got to be a kid for the first time. I went to football games, prom, was able to focus on school and go to college. I had some contact with my siblings, but their adoptive family made it difficult. Now that they're all adults, 23, 22, 20, and 19, we began to reconnect and get to know each other better. 3 of my siblings have just began therapy. The youngest is hesitant. All of them say that their adoptive parents were amazing, but they resent them for pushing me out as well as not being willing to adopt me. I explained to them that it was the social worker and courts who felt it was best I was adopted separately. They said that was BS and we should have all stayed together. I tried to be neutral and validate their feelings. However, they began crap-talking my adoptive parents and said they were wrong for adopting me and not trying to advocate for us all to be together. That was my line in the sand. I said my adoptive parents did the best thing for me and it's what I needed. The 23-year-old then asked me if I'm happy we were separated. I said I'm not happy about our life circumstances that led to these choices being made, but given they were our circumstances, I'm glad I was given a chance. My 22 and 19-year-old sisters actually understand where I'm coming from and have since come around. However, my 23-year-old brother and 20-year-old sister think that it was a nasty thing to say. I said I don't appreciate my parents being spoken about that way, and I'd never trash talk their parents. Plus, it's my truth just as much as it's theirs when they admit that they had a good childhood and were happy they were adopted. Important info. 4 of us who attend therapy do have family counseling sessions. However, they're about once every 3 months due to insurance, and we won't see her again until July. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. I'm a separated sibling and went into care at 12, although I'm the youngest. It's crappy. They're likely too young to remember all the details. Just take it as a compliment that they wish they had you growing up. Don't feel guilty either, as it wasn't your choice. It was none of your choices, but what was court-ordered. Your adoptive parents gave you a needed home when you were in need. The only jerks here are the people who kept getting your mom pregnant and didn't step up. Am I the jerk for telling my husband that our marriage is over because he asked for a paternity test? I, 52 female, have been married to my husband for 24 years, together for 30 years. It hasn't always been roses, but we had a lot of fun. Yesterday, we were having a Friday evening drink to relax, and our son, who's 17, asked for help with his gaming PC. I'm the tech, so I tried to give advice. My husband got upset and stormed off, saying that his relax time was ruined. I thought he was being childish and pretty much ignored him. This evening, he told me that in a previous relationship, his partner had lost her pregnancy, and in the investigation, they found that he was infertile, and so she had been cheating. This was news to me. Yeah, we had been together 12 years before I conceived, but I have never cheated on him. I always thought the problem had been mine. He says that our son is not his and he wants a DNA test. I agreed because I never cheated on him ever. I said our marriage was over because of this. He said he knew I would react this way and that I'm a lying jerk. My heart is broken, but am I the jerk? Edit. His ex is a lovely woman and we are friends on Facebook. I'll message her in the morning. The dementia angle being suggested is a good one and deserves investigating. Yes, parental uncertainty is something that women don't appreciate, but he should have said this before. I would have understood if he had raised it earlier because it did take a while for me to get pregnant. His parting shot tonight was that he didn't say anything at the time because I needed a father for my kid. I pointed out that in previous heated arguments, I would have thrown that at him and left with my son if there was any doubt that he was the father. He was the stay-at-home parent, and I didn't leave him in other turbulent times because I didn't want to leave our son. Not the jerk. If he believed he was infertile, why did he try for a kid with you without sharing that for 12 years? Then why did he wait another 17 years after your son was born to verbalize that he thinks it's not his kid? Update. The next day I messaged his ex and I told her what had happened. She said absolutely none of what he said was true. She lives 5,000 miles away and has nothing to gain from lying to me. She echoed what some have mentioned, that maybe he was having some kind of mental health crisis. We don't live in the first world, and there's only one clinic that does paternity tests, so I told him about it. The boy knows and is happy enough to go get a test with his dad, but to my knowledge, he hasn't done this at all. Tempted to buy one off Amazon and get it shipped here. Anyway, I can't do the test for him. He has to do that. So with some quiet distance, I decided to see what would happen. I did promise, in sickness and in health, so if it is a mental health crisis, I should be there. Also, he won't go see a doctor, so that's kind of tough. Last night, he blew up again over something trivial while making dinner and was shouting, "Shut up, shut up!" I calmly pointed out that I don't talk to him like that, so off he stomped and locked himself in the guest room, and he's not talking to me at all this morning. I really am starting to think that this may be a mental health crisis. I'm not sure what to do next other than try to remain calm, try not to let him upset me. Also, our families don't live near us. We're from the first world, but we live in the third world. We don't have any family anywhere near. He doesn't work and he doesn't have friends nearby. I have animals to care for and a feral cat colony. I can't walk out and he has nowhere to go either. Am I the jerk for bringing a generic product versus the name brand I was asked to bring? This seems so silly to me, but it's become a big deal, so I have to ask. Last weekend, my girlfriend's family hosted a barbecue. I was always raised to never show up anywhere empty-handed, so I asked my girlfriend's mom what I should bring. She asked if I could grab the Cool Whip for our dessert that she was making. Easy enough. I figured it won't be hard to find, so I decided to wait until morning and grab it on my way there. Well, I get to the store about 20 minutes before the barbecue starts, and they're somehow out of the name brand. They did, however, have some of the store brand's whipped topping. As I didn't have time to go to another grocery store, I just bought the generic brand and headed off. Upon arrival, I hand the bag to my girlfriend's mom. She opens it, looks inside, and gets a weird look on her face. She asks, "Where's the Cool Whip?" I say that the store was out, but this is pretty much the same thing, right? She looks a little irritated with me, but just tells me to make myself at home. As I'm putting my stuff down, I hear her asking her husband to run to the store and grab the Cool Whip. I can't hear the entire conversation, but he must have asked, didn't I bring it? Because then I hear her say, "I asked for one thing, and he couldn't even deliver." Nothing else was said directly to me, but there were a few passive-aggressive remarks throughout the barbecue, such as when her husband arrived, name brand in hand, calling him her hero. When the dessert was served, she again made a comment about how it's made with real Cool Whip. I didn't want to make a scene, so I just took it on the chin. When talking to my girlfriend about it later, she said that her mom was overdramatic, but I should have called her to ask if generic was okay. Or I could have gone to a different store. I asked if there was really a difference, and she said she doesn't know, but it was what I was asked to bring, so I should have communicated better. Again, this all sounds so stupid, but am I the jerk? Not the jerk. My dad is one of those generic bad, name brand good people. My mom and I simply saved the name brand containers, cleaned them out, and replaced them with the generic versions. Trust me, he's never noticed. Also, anyone who's using Cool Whip versus making homemade whipped cream doesn't have a leg to stand on when it comes to taste. The disrespect she showed a guest was gross, and I'd be avoiding her over there if you don't have to. This is a crystal ball into your future if you stay with this girlfriend and she continues to handle her mom like this. You did nothing wrong. This isn't a diamond cubic zirconia switcheroo. It's one where frothed up vegetable oil in a blue tub was replaced by the same frothed up vegetable oil in a different color container, or one of a slightly different shade of blue. You're the jerk. Just because you can't tell the difference doesn't mean that there isn't a difference. You're the jerk. The idea when bringing stuff is to be helpful. You could have brought flowers if you just wanted to bring something. If someone asks for a specific thing, I think you either need to bring it or ask if the alternative is okay. Honestly, store brands can come off as being cheap too. That's why most people use generic. I don't think you were trying to be a jerk, and she was being dramatic, but I understand why she was annoyed. You're the jerk. There's definitely a taste difference, and you should have called to ask or just gone to another store. It's not up to you to change things up just because it's an inconvenience for you. If you're tasked to get a thing and you agree to it, then it should be that specific thing. You're the jerk. You could have called ahead and asked, or planned ahead and gone to the store not on the way to the barbecue. Am I the jerk for leaving my new coworker to figure things out after she reported me for giving advice? I have a new coworker, Steph, who started working here in early October. We work in a department of less than 20 people and our manager is Steve. Steph is new to an office environment and has never worked in our field before. There's some pretty obvious gaps in her knowledge, and Steve asked me if I could help her out just until she's got a handle on everything, and I agreed. She's mostly trained now, but she still regularly asks me for help. Steph has been reporting our coworkers to Steve for minor issues, ranging from discussing the election to a coworker receiving a call from her son while at her desk, which technically they shouldn't be doing, but there's not many people in this office, and we're not very uptight about these kinds of things, so long as everyone gets their work done and no one acts the maggot. Steve has to go through the procedure every time, and while he's never said it was Steph, people have figured it out. and it's annoyed them because the meetings take up free time where they could be doing other stuff. She's even reported Steve to himself over our relationship, which has annoyed him too. Steph has noticed that she's not making friends, and 2 weeks ago she asked me why. I tried playing it off, but she insisted she wanted to know. I responded that she was a little quick to report stuff that isn't really an issue, and that while I didn't want to discourage her from reporting in future, her reporting minor things could put the others off a bit. She just nodded and went back to work. Steve called me in the next day, saying someone had said that I told them not to report anything ever. I told him what happened and it was all fine. I then asked Steven if I had to continue helping Steph after this, and he told me to do what I felt was best. So now, I'm just not helping her. She's asked me for help more than once in the last few days, and I've just told her that I'm busy. Steph has noticed my sudden withdrawal from her. She stopped me after work and asked why I've stopped helping her, and I said I have my own work to do. She then said something about how if I'm doing this to make her feel bad, then it's working, but it's also doing everyone else over. Because if she can't complete her own work, then either I'll have to do it for her or everyone else will eventually hit a point where they can't progress without Steph's stuff, and that I owe it to her and to everyone else to act professional and not let this get in the way. The reason I'm now doubting my actions is that she's right. If I don't help her and her work gets backed up, then either I'll have to do it myself or we'll all end up waiting on her to do it. And as a team and as a department, we need to look like we have our crap together right now, or it'll make this whole department look bad at a time the company has hinted at cutbacks, and this just feels petty by comparison. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk? Or is Steph the jerk? Please let us know.
That Steph sounds like a real troublemaker. If management doesn't get rid of her soon, they're gonna have much bigger problems on their hands. Team members work with the team, not against it.
Psycho, entitled Uber Karen crashes our movie night, gets owned. This happened many years ago, but I remember most of it because it was just so stupid, and I briefly wrote about it in my journal. I'm female, and at the time was in my late 30s, as were the rest of the group. I used to have a friend, she moved so we lost touch, who had an Uber Karen of a younger sister along with her rotten little 8-year-old goblin. I mean, this kid was such a jerk, and her mom was enabling and indulging her. This kid would always take other people's stuff and either mess with it, break it, eat it, or steal it, and would throw a fit if you stopped her, causing mommy to get in your face. Of course, Uber Karen never offered to replace anything. One night, a bunch of us, all women this night, went to my friend's house for a horror movie marathon night. We did movie night 2 to 3 times a month, always with a different theme, and friends and spouses were welcome. And each of us was expected to bring a snack, drinks, and 1 or more movie, usually R-rated. We'd then pick, via mutual agreement, the 3 or 4 we liked best to watch. Suffice to say, young kids were not allowed. We were well into our first movie and 2 bottles of wine when my friend's front door opens and her Uber Karen walks in, unannounced, says she's going clubbing, and tries to dump the kid on us because
we were staying home anyway, so it shouldn't be a big deal.
Friend is mad and refused to watch the kid because, she later told us, A, she's a spoiled, destructive brat. B, Uber Karen didn't call or ask despite multiple warnings. C, this was her time to unwind with friends, not babysit her sister's rotten goblin. D, none of the movies were remotely kid-friendly, and she wasn't going to alter her plans just because sister wanted to go clubbing. And E, did I mention the kid was a spoiled, destructive brat? She didn't say any of this, just gave her a flat no, to which both Uber Karen and the kid threw a tantrum. Turned out she told her daughter she would be having a fun movie night with Auntie. As they argued, the kid took the opportunity to grab the remote and started playing the DVD we had paused when they let themselves in. It was the 1988 remake of The Blob and was mine, and stared watching. None of us stopped her because, honestly, we were too busy watching the sisters fight to notice. Ironically, we had paused it just before a particularly scary/gross scene where someone gets grabbed, pulled under the water, then comes up half melted and screaming before being dragged back under and devoured. Naturally, the brat freaks and starts crying, which alerts Uber Karen, who starts screaming at us for letting her kid watch. I'm paraphrasing here because this was a while ago and I didn't write her words. Our disgusting movies. Pretty sure she also swore here too. Then demanded to know who it belonged to. Since I hated Uber Karen, I got up off the couch. But surprisingly, so did another friend, who I'll call friend 1, a very buff, sporty girl who Uber Karen hated and actively feared. This was because they had gotten into a fight the year prior when Uber Karen grabbed friend 1's fiance at a party, and no, she wasn't drunk, then slapped friend 1, who promptly knocked out Uber Karen in front of everyone. Friend 1 glared at her, then said, "It doesn't matter whose movie it is. What matters is you coming in here uninvited, giving your sister crap for not watching your kid, then getting ticked off when your kid again touches crap that isn't hers and ends up scaring herself. Now I suggest you get your kid, turn around, and go home." A smart person would have done what friend 1 said, but Uber Karen was never particularly smart. Instead of leaving, she turns to me and starts getting in my face, probably figuring I wasn't going to retaliate because she was smaller than me. She's my height, but much slimmer. She was right, but also wrong. I have a temper, always have, but my temper will first manifest as sarcasm, right up until I either reach my BS saturation point or the jerk picking the fight touches me. Then it's game on. And by that point, I don't give a darn if you're smaller or bigger. So she got in my face, screaming at me, which I didn't really listen to nor care about, except a sentence or two. We needed to care for her kid. What the heck? When she stopped to take a breath, I said, "Why is it our job to watch your kid? It's not like any of us were the ones that had her." Uber Karen actually gasped, like someone in a graphic novel, and yelled in my face, "You have a son!" "Yes, I do," I replied, starting to get really mad. "But do you see him here?" "No. That's because I'm not a self-centered jerk who would bring him to an adult's gathering or dump him on others without asking." This really set her off, and like any entitled moron who can't fight, she tried to slap me. Luckily, she fights like a girl. Too bad for her, I don't. When Uber Karen pulled her arm back, people never telegraph your blows. I moved slightly to the side, grabbed the arm, then planted her into the nearest wall, pinning her arm behind her back. Darn, it felt good. Uber Karen struggled, but I wasn't letting go. I told her she had 3 choices. She could take her kid and leave quietly. I could kick her butt in front of her kid. I'd never do that, but she didn't know that. And by this point, one of the others had taken the kid into the kitchen, but I was too busy to notice. Or I could call the cops, have her arrested for assault, then have her ex, who hated her because she cheated, come pick the kid up. Uber Karen agreed to option 1, but then tried to get my friend to side with her. Once I released her, because family. Friend responded by taking Uber Karen's keys, removing her house key, and telling Uber Karen that neither she or her kid were welcome in her house and to please get the heck out. The look on Uber Karen's face was one of utter shock. Uber Karen then looked at us all for support. Why she looked at me for help, I just don't get it. But we just glared at her. Realizing nobody would side with her, Uber Karen grabbed her kid, called us all jerks, especially me, and left, slamming the door. Friend apologized to us. No need, we all knew her sister was a jerk. Then immediately called her parents, giving them the lowdown and warning them that unless they wanted to end up watching the brat all weekend, they'd better get in their car and go anywhere else. Uber Karen had done this before many times, and to warn the other relatives as well. Uber Karen didn't get to go clubbing and soon after lost custody of her brat to her ex. Don't know what happened to her since and don't care. I'll try to lawyer if you insist. So this happened in 2015, just a few months after my husband had suddenly passed away. He passed in November of 2014. At the time, I was a bartender and had a small chicken farm, so I worked nights and during the day would tend to my little hobby farm. I say little, I actually had over 50 chickens. This will be important later on in the story. At the time, I had my cell number since about 2011, so about 4 years before I started receiving these calls. Every time an unfamiliar number would come up on my caller ID, it would be a call from someone who's trying to reach a local legal aid attorney or a court-appointed attorney. I would explain that they had the wrong number and most people would apologize and let it go. Sometimes they would turn around and call right back, and again I would tell them, "I'm sorry, but you have the wrong number. I am not your attorney." Most of the time I would let it go to voicemail and not bother with it, unless they kept calling, and then I would let them know they had the wrong number. Again, most people were fine and polite with it. But this one time, we've got the crazy lady that needs an attorney, we've got the actual attorney, and we've got me and the judge. Crazy lady had called several times, leaving a voicemail every time, and each and every voicemail was almost impossible to understand. About all I could understand was that she was trying to reach an attorney and she was becoming increasingly agitated that said attorney was not answering or returning her calls. Eventually, the voicemails became screaming rants with a lot of cursing. Remarkably, I could understand the curse words. Finally, I answered the call, thinking that I would explain to her that she had the wrong number, and then maybe, just maybe, she would quit calling me every day to leave nasty voicemails. Nope. Me. Hello? Crazy lady.
This is Crazy Lady, and I've been calling you for weeks now.
Not true.
And you've been ignoring me.
Me. Ma'am, I'm sorry, but you have the wrong number. And I hang up. She called right back. Again, I explained to her that she has the wrong number, and she begins to curse and tells me she knows she has the right number. Click, I hang up again. And wonder all of wonders, the nut job calls again. Crazy lady.
You better not hang up on me again, you jerk. I know you work for the attorney, and you are not giving him my messages.
Me. Ma'am, I don't know that attorney, and you have the wrong number. Please stop calling me. Click, I hang up again. She calls back. I didn't realize telling someone they had the wrong number for the umpteenth time was so complicated to understand. Guess I was wrong. And she calls again. Crazy lady.
I have court.
It was either the next day or a couple of days after. It's been years, so I don't remember. Anyway, she has court coming up, and if said attorney doesn't show up for the court, she's going to tell the judge that the attorney took her money and have the judge call me in court, or I'm going to jail. Okay, nut job, whatever. I knew when the number comes up on my caller ID that it was her number from the part of the county where the courthouse, etc. was located, so I answered. Judge. May I speak with attorney? Me. Sir, you have the wrong number. Judge. I'm not playing games with you, girl. This is the judge, and I better get the attorney there within a few hours. It was late morning, and the lawyer needed to be there by after lunch. Me. Your Honor, I have repeatedly told this lady she has the wrong number. I am not an attorney. I am in fact a bartender at the local honky-tonk, and I am a hobby chicken farmer. I'm not an attorney. Please understand, during this there are several roosters in my yard, ducks and guinea fowl. The roosters are having a crowing contest, and all the animals are pretty rowdy. It is spring after all. So I continue to explain to the judge that I'm not a lawyer, and I'm up to my elbows in chicken crap, cleaning out the coop, which we had been using a deep bed method during the winter, and since it was getting warmer, didn't need to keep that much bedding, and well, it stunk. For the record, every time she called and I answered, you could either hear chickens in the background or extremely loud music from the bar where I worked. I continued to explain to him that I'm sure that I stink pretty bad and that I didn't know anything about being a lawyer, but I had pretty good knowledge of raising chickens and making drinks. I continued to tell him that I could probably make it there after lunch, but that I really needed to finish cleaning out my coops, and I would then need to take a shower and get dressed. But if he really needed me to come be a lawyer, I would certainly try. I remember telling him I guess I could lawyer if I tried, and that I had done pretty good helping my attorney during my divorce a few years before. I did not even give him time to respond until I said what I had to say. Judge. I don't think that will be necessary, ma'am. I apologize for wasting your time. Me. Do you think you could tell this lady to stop calling me several times a day? Because I'm tired of being yelled at and cursed out for not being her attorney. I explained to him she had threatened me and harassed me and that I was really tired of it. He assured me he would take care of it. Never heard from Crazy Lady again and would have completely forgotten this until I had a voicemail from someone looking for an attorney. I did later find out from an acquaintance that is an attorney that I do indeed have the number that previously belonged to a legal aid defense attorney. She figured it out when she was programming my phone number in her phone for totally unrelated business. Speaking of chickens, have you ever raised any farm animals? And if not, would you like to? Please let us know.
I want to get some goats, bruh. The ones that go "Meow."
I saved a sales assistant from a Karen who then stalked me for over an hour. So this happened about 5 years ago. Now I had worked at this exact store previously, so I was familiar with how their system worked. We have me, 23 female. We've got Karen, in her 40s, and we've got the sales assistant, late teens, early 20s, male. I was waiting in line at a well-known book/stationery store in my local mall, buying a card and gift wrap. Karen was in front of me, arguing with the boy at the register because she wanted to know if they had a book in stock. The book was in stock, but only available when ordered from the online store, as it was old and no longer being sold in the store. So Karen would need to purchase it herself online. When ordering from this company's online store, it will be shipped to the address of your choice via courier. Of course, this comes with additional shipping costs. Karen, however, seems to think this meant he could order the book in and she would be able to pick it up the next day. This is not the case, as the stores, while operating under the same company name, are completely different. Thus, the argument begins. Karen:
Well, can't you just order it in?
Assistant: Sorry, our system doesn't allow us to do that.
Yes, it does. I've done it before.
Sorry, since the company is under new ownership, all stores are separate now, including the online store.
It's the same company. You're just being lazy.
Sorry, you'll have to order it yourself online. They went back and forth a couple times before I spoke up. Me: He's right, that's not how the system works. Karen turns, glares at me, and says,
Do you work here?
Me: No, I did work here a year ago. That's how I know how the system works. Karen:
But you work in the mall.
She then proceeds to look over my clothes for a name tag or uniform logo. Me: Nope, nice try though, as I unzip my jacket so she can get a better look at my civvies. Karen:
Well, where do you work?
Me: That's literally none of your business.
Yes, it is. Your employer should know how you behave in public.
Me: Insert surprised Pikachu face. Me: Actually, that's not how the world works, lady. At this point, you could see the rage building inside her as she realized she had no power over me. I too noticed at this point that I was in a unique position where I could call this lady out for basically being a jerk, and there's nothing that she can do about it. Or so I thought. Karen, with a smug look on her face, then says,
Well, you probably don't even have a job.
Me: Yeah, I'm not falling for that. She was obviously trying to bait me into telling her. Me: You can think what you want, lady, but at the end of the day, I'm not the pathetic person whose only sense of control in the world is threatening a person's livelihood to get what they want. Me: You know you're a crappy person, right? Karen, absolutely fuming at this point, storms off. I then proceed to pay for my card and gift wrap while having a laugh with the assistant at the register about what had just happened. Now, you would think this would be the end of my encounter with Karen, but oh no, she still thinks I work in the mall. So as I leave the store, I stop and get a coffee from the small kiosk cafe just outside. I noticed Karen was watching me, and I kid you not, this psycho continued to follow me into every single store I entered and asked the person behind the register if I worked there. At this point, I was thinking I can't go back to my car because she'll get my license plate numbers and be able to look up my information. Then Facebook stalked me. I ended up calling a taxi and going to see my dad, who lived about 10 minutes up the road, and got him to take me back to my car an hour later. Sorry kinda long, but this was my best Karen/I don't work here lady encounter. Would you ever stand up to a Karen for a cashier or not? Please let us know.
I dare you to try.
Am I the jerk for not letting my niece host her wedding at my castle? 28 years ago, my wife and I combined our savings, most of which came from inheritance after my father's passing, and bought our castle in southern Europe. It was actually a derelict farmhouse with some land, but it had a small turret, so our family has always referred to it as the castle. My wife and I decided we'd rather have a small, basic house in our home country and focus our time and resources readying the castle for us to retire in and for our children to enjoy. It took years, but around the time our eldest was born, it was finally finished. It's not massive, 5 bedrooms, and has a small pool in the garden, but it is our paradise. We've always allowed our families and friends to use it whenever they please, and have spent every summer vacation staying there with our kids. Our only stipulation when people stay there is that the master bedroom is off limits. It takes up most of the 3rd floor, with the remaining bedrooms on the 2nd floor. A lot of my and my wife's belongings are in there, and it's also the room we have shared together for over 20 years. Recently, my niece got engaged and held an engagement party on Zoom over the weekend. When asked what ideas they had had so far, she excitedly told me they had actually been planning to ask us if they could hold the wedding at the castle. I was a bit taken aback, but didn't want to outright refuse. I joked it would have to be a rather small wedding since they had struggled to fit more than 25 people in the gardens. She gushed that she had already thought it through and they had put up canopies in the field nearby. We don't own that land, and if all the guests stayed in hotels in the town, she would arrange transportation for us all to get to the villa. My wife and I bit our tongues, not wanting to make a fuss during their engagement celebration. But later, when my niece texted me to repeat what she had said, I asked her to clarify the sleeping arrangements, and after some back and forth, It came to light she planned to use the master bedroom as the bridal suite and for the wedding party to have the remaining rooms. My wife, children, and I would have to stay elsewhere. I slept on my decision and spoke with my wife. On Sunday, I responded and politely refused, saying it's too small and we aren't comfortable having anyone in our room. Both she and my sister blew up at me, telling me I was ruining her wedding and she'd always dreamed of marrying at the castle. My sister even said since I used my inheritance, it's family property, which is obviously ridiculous. ETA, when we texted her on Sunday, we offered a compromise. No master bedroom and either get permission/insurance to use the fields or reduce guest count to 25. We even offered to host a small rehearsal too, but she rejected the offers. That is why we outright refused. Want the whole bottle? You'll get the whole bottle. So this story was from about 8 years ago, so my memory may be a little hazy. I was around 18, male, and working in a bar in the town center somewhere in the UK. We're based between two of the grimiest pubs and the clubs in there, so we got a lot of dodgy, rude, and drunk patrons on a regular occurrence. One night at around 12 a.m., this group of guys came in wearing suits, and I immediately can tell they're pretty drunk and obnoxious. They come to the bar, which was about 2 to 3 deep, and around 20 to 30 people waiting ahead of them. They start loudly asking for service, even though there's people patiently waiting in front of them. Me and my team just roll our eyes and get back to serving people. I get around to serving them, and they all shout, "Finally! What took you so long?" I just ignored that comment and asked what they wanted. They then started talking amongst themselves, like they didn't have enough time to work this out while waiting. The ringleader proclaimed that they are going big tonight, so they want a bottle of Grey Goose. I said, "I can only see you a maximum of a double in any one drink. If you want to make it stronger, go for it." He ignores the most of what I said and just says, "Didn't you hear me? 1 bottle of Grey Goose." We can't sell the bottles of spirits under any circumstances. I call the manager up in the back and explain the situation. He says exactly what I've already told the customer, so we agreed that if explained one more time about how I had to give them the drink and he just said 1 bottle again, I'd do it. What ringleader didn't realize is that I have to put the whole bottle through as doubles, which was about $8.50 per double without any mixers. So this bottle ended up costing him £170 before any mixers when it's only £35 in the local supermarket. He throws his hands up in the air saying I've ripped him off and he's not going to pay that. Why didn't I say anything sooner, etc. I said that I did, and he just blows me off and goes to walk out. Little does he know, I've already asked the bouncers to keep him in the building until he's paid up. His mates laugh at him as he goes white as a sheet, realizing he's just spent a lot of money. His friends give him a little bit of money to help him pay. Ringleader then spends the night sulking with his 170-pound bottle that he could have got for 30. Am I the jerk for losing it when my fiance canceled my job interview? I, 33, male, have been engaged to my fiance, 28, female, for over 7 months, and we're planning on having the wedding next year. Thing is, I've been struggling to find a new job after I lost my previous job due to reasons that are out of my control, and it was hard because I worked so hard for this company, and I ended up being told that I was no longer needed. I've been struggling with rent and bills, and my fiance is the one taking care of rent for now, while I take care of other things and help as much as I can. After looking for 4 months, I finally found a potential job opportunity and contacted the company and set up a date for an interview. I've learned that the manager is a lady, and for some reason, that upset my fiance. She told me having a lady as your boss is never a good thing because she says that they can take advantage of their positions and get employees to do things for them so they could benefit. I thought that was just wrong and ignorant, to be honest. She told me to keep looking for other jobs and cancel my interview, but I refused. I wasn't going to throw this opportunity away after looking for months because I feel frustrated and helpless without a job, not to mention not being able to pay for rent and other things since she complains that I don't contribute in anything. She threw a fit and kept bringing it up over and over again. A few days ago, I found out that she used my laptop and canceled my interview with the company. I was so mad when I contacted the company and they told me that they had other potential employees that attended interviews and that I was 2 days late. I yelled at my fiance, especially when she didn't even deny it. She thought I was overreacting and that she'll try and find another job for me. I just couldn't take it and yelled at her for canceling an important interview because she felt insecure. She got upset that I called her out on her insecurities and thought I was in the wrong for how I reacted. She's refusing to even talk about it without me apologizing to her first. I haven't apologized And she's even more upset, saying I shouldn't treat her like this when she's working and paying for rent, and that I should appreciate her for that instead of being mad at her. Entitled brother fakes illness to milk my parents of their retirement savings. So I grew up in a middle-class family in a low-income area. My dad built his dream house there, and even though they could afford to move, they never wanted to. My parents had a tendency to spoil my older brother far more than us, mostly because I was the quiet one who never spoke up. This resulted in my brother getting his way more often than me. Nothing blatant, but it was enough to give him an entitlement complex a mile wide. When my brother was a teenager, he struggled with some serious mental illnesses. These were absolutely legitimate and crippled his ability to function for several years. My parents were obviously very concerned for him, and so they willingly paid top dollar for the best psychiatrist and psychologist that they could find to help him. By the time I was ready to go to a different city to start university, my brother was at a stage where he was ready to go as well. It was decided that he would go to a university as the same city as me, and we would live together. My parents offered to pay for our rent all the way through university, so us flatting together obviously made a lot of financial sense for them. We would have to pay for everything else out of our student loans. Everything was set. We had found a good student flat, settled in, etc. He had a new care team in the new city. Awesome. Unfortunately, my brother had an episode on his first day that resulted in him not going to class. This meant he was removed from his program, compulsory first day, with the option of starting again in the second semester. Now, the obvious, logical, and sensible thing to do in that situation is for my brother to go home while I found a roommate to take the spare bedroom, and he could move back up and try again next semester. My brother didn't like that idea. You see, he always hated living at home. He would always whine about how old our house was or how poor our neighborhood looked. Our neighborhood was lovely, great sense of community, and I always loved it there. But he felt that he deserved better. Next thing we knew, his new psychologist has written a letter to my parents stating that it would be a good idea to allow him to stay living in the new city, to allow him to acclimate to his surroundings. My parents followed this advice and allowed him to stay. They replaced his weekly loan amount with an allowance of the same value and thought everything would move forward from there. This worked for a few weeks, but my brother started to hound my parents for more money. You see, he wasn't a student, so in his mind, why should he have to live like a student? No instant noodles and TV dinners for him. He wanted steak and lamb for dinner. He wanted to go to nice restaurants with his friends and go shopping whenever he felt like it. He wanted a new iPhone and a new MacBook because his was slow, etc. My parents eventually gave in and doubled his allowance. Second semester rolls around, and my brother hasn't even bothered enrolling. My parents weren't happy, but his psychologist writes him another letter, and so it continues. Fast forward 3 years, and I'm graduating with a job offer from my university in my field. The apartment is nice and convenient to my new job, so I continue to live there, only now I pay for my half of the rent and utilities. My brother is still not working or studying, and his allowance is now almost equal to my salary. Every time my parents try to force him home, his psychologist writes another letter, and my parents' trust in my brother's care team was high. They did save his life after all. By this point, my parents are just paying for his half of the utilities directly on top of his allowance. I suggested to my parents to get a second medical opinion, as he had been seeing this psychologist almost weekly for 3 years with no improvement, but my brother flat out refuses. He likes her. She speaks to his soul, whatever that means. About a year and a half after I graduate, our landlord decides to sell the apartment and the new owners want to live there. Normal thing that happens, and I'm not bothered by this. I wanted to take the opportunity to get my own place. I have a serious girlfriend whom I want to eventually marry, so would like my own space that she could one day move into, and just generally move on with my adult life. But my parents don't want my brother living on his own just yet, and again, he is refusing to come home. They beg me to stay for just 1 more year while they figure out an arrangement for him. We got rather short notice to move, so I can understand this, and 1 more year won't matter too much to me. So apartment hunting we go. My brother goes fully off the entitlement deep end. He will only view apartments well outside of our price range. Anything within budget is either too old or too small, or too dark, or too ugly. He wants a new, modern apartment in an expensive suburb in the heart of the city. His psychologist writes another letter outlining the importance of a comfortable environment for him. My parents cave once again and agree to rent his dream apartment for us, but I can't afford my half of the new rent. They compromise with me, and I only have to pay the same rent as I was before, which is barely 1/3 of the rent at the new place, mind you. It's a beautiful apartment, so I was okay with the deal, even though I wasn't happy. Unfortunately, my brother is now used to getting everything he wants or needs. He starts asking me to pay for more and more of the groceries. Idiot me, thinking that mom and dad had cut down on his allowance now that the rent is so expensive, agreed to take up some of the slack. Big mistake. They were still giving him the same amount. He just wanted more. He starts asking me for more and more things and then whines to mom when I don't give it to him. My parents cave over and over again and get him whatever he wants. New computer, new MacBook, new iPhone, heck, even a car. Up until this point, my parents could afford all of this and somehow still save well for their retirement. My mom was completely honest with me about their finances, as when the time came, the power of attorney would transfer to me, so she wanted me to know where they stood. They were on track for a long, comfortable retirement, but then my dad unfortunately lost his job through very unusual circumstances. His company just disappeared, and his boss left the country. This messed my dad up for quite a while, and he decided it was time to kick back and enjoy an early retirement. He was only 2 years short of his retirement age anyway. My brother was furious. He would rage about how dad had betrayed him for not continuing to work to fund his lifestyle. He would regularly yell at my mom over the phone, saying that he expects them to continue to support him because he deserves the security of the lifestyle he has earned. I laughed my butt off at that line, which turned into another long fight, but was totally worth it. I knew that without dad's income, my parents couldn't afford the rent where we lived, so I decided to force the issue and moved into my own place. I had hoped that this would result in my brother moving as well, but alas, his psychologist wrote him another letter and he continued to live there. I moved on with my life, got married, went back to university, bought a house, grown-up stuff. 5 years go by, and I have virtually no contact with my brother. I'm visiting my parents one day, and when I take them out for lunch, my mom breaks down crying because she can't pay. It turns out that my brother had been blackmailing my parents to continue to support him, saying that if they didn't, he'd end up homeless and it would be their fault, etc. He still had the full support of his medical team, and my parents didn't know what to do. He had burned through nearly 20 years worth of retirement savings since I moved out. My parents were both forced to go back to work to try and stretch out their retirement savings. I decide to visit the psychologist myself, only to find out that she is one of those tell people what they want to hear so they keep giving me money, predatory type psychologists who was enabling my brother because he was a cash cow for her. Our entire family was furious. Turns out my brother had been recovered since his first year living away from home. He was perfectly able to work or study, he just didn't want to. And so she wrote him those bogus letters to let him get away with it. He decided to milk my parents of their savings to fund his lifestyle because he had earned it, and they owed him for not giving him what he wanted when he was younger. When confronted about it, he was entirely unapologetic. As far as he is concerned, he was entitled to everything he got and then some. It's been a few years since then, and my parents have completely cut him off. They are surviving, but within a few years, I will probably end up having to support them. I have no issue with this. I'm their son, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to do so, but it breaks my dad's heart knowing this. He grew up dirt poor and worked his butt off to provide for us, only to see it all disappear because of my selfish brother. The psychologist had her license suspended after my parents laid a complaint. I don't know if it was temporary or not, but I hope it was permanent. As for my brother, he works a dead-end retail job with a live-in boyfriend who pays for almost everything. He's still an entitled jerk, and I only see him during Christmas. I just want to emphasize, my brother had legitimate mental health issues, and I do not want to take away from that at all. He just chose to willfully deceive everyone about the severity in order to demand that everyone else give him the life he feels he deserves. And before you ask, no, his mental illness did not contribute towards this attitude. It's not that sort of illness. He's just an entitled jerk. Entitled Mom gets mad at me for playing Mortal Kombat. Cast. We've got me. We've got Entitled Mom. We've got the kid. We've got my awesome mom. We've got my awesome dad. We've got the receptionist. This happened a few days ago. Sorry for the formatting. I'm on mobile. Let's set the scene. I'm 14 and I was at the hospital visiting my mom, who is a nurse, in the waiting room. And my brother and I decided to surprise her for her birthday by showing up with flowers and a card. Our dad dropped us off, but couldn't come in because he was in a conference call. He's an IT worker. The receptionist told us to wait for a bit as they were in the middle of a surgery. During this time, I pulled out my Nintendo Switch since I was bored and decided to load up some Mortal Kombat 11. My brother, who didn't really want to play, decided to because he was also bored and because I also kind of begged him to play. I handed him a Joy-Con and we selected our characters, mine being Sindel, my main, and his being Sub-Zero, his main. We battled it out on the Deadpool stage, which ended up in a 2-1 and I won. My brother handed me the Joy-Con, and as I took it, I heard a tap on my shoulder. Here enters Entitled Mom and Kid. Entitled Mom was a classic Karen, blonde hair, 90s clothes, a nasally voice, and eyes that said, "Can I speak to your manager?" Entitled Mom, "Hello, I was wondering if my son could play that nice game you were playing." The kid looked to be around 10 or 11 years old. I smiled and said okay, but warned him it was a bit graphic. Entitled Mom, "I'm sure it will be fine." Me, "Okay then." We started off with selecting characters, and he warned me that he was going to, according to him, kick my butt. I smirked and instantly locked Sindel, splitting hairs, while he picked Noob Saibot, seeing double. He asked to review the moves, and I let him because I wanted him to have a fair chance. He did, and we began the fight. I started the round off with a forward 2-1 combo into an amplified scream. He began furiously mashing the buttons. He hit me with a 2-1-2, which did some decent damage, but it ended up in a 2-0, with me performing the hair today, gone tomorrow fatality, in which Sindel does a quick backwards cartwheel and then uses her hair to grab the arms of her opponent. All of a sudden, I hear Entitled Mom say,
"What the heck did you just show my kid?"
My brother and I both jumped, and I turned to her. Me, "Miss, you allowed him to play this, and I even warned you that it was crazy. You didn't seem to care." Entitled Mom,
"I don't care. You should have let him win and not traumatize him with this BS."
She tried to grab the Switch from me, and I pull away, leaning into my brother as she swipes at me again, her nails scratching at my hands. Entitled Mom,
"Give me that."
My brother turns to her and pushes her away. He's the more confrontational one. "Hey, leave him alone. It's a game that he warned you about. And again, you didn't listen." At this time, my mom walks in and sees the commotion going on. Mom, "What's going on here?" Entitled Mom, switching into victim mode, says,
"You have to help me. These horrible teenagers tried to show my son a horrible game, and they tried to hurt us."
Mom, immediately seeing us, terrified, says, "Boys, what did you do?" We both shook our heads. Entitled Mom then says,
"They're horrible kids. They should be arrested."
She then turned quickly and gave us a smirk, then switched back into victim mode. My mom said, "I highly doubt what you're saying is true. For one, we have cameras everywhere, and two, they're my kids." Entitled Mom, spluttering,
They're your kids?"
My mom nods, and Entitled Mom starts going on a rant about how bad of a parent she is, and my dad must have left home for a mistress. He hasn't, but my parents are divorced. My mom immediately went into rage mode. Mom, "Shut up about my kids. You have no right to judge them for the games they play. I got that game for him for his birthday. You also don't have a right to judge me for being a mother. Receptionist, call security and have them escort this woman out." Receptionist nods, and in minutes, 3 burly guards are there. 2 of them get her out of the room, and the third one stays behind to ask what happened. Entitled Mom's kid is following her, asking why they can't stay. We walk outside to see Entitled Mom getting handcuffed and put in a cop car, and a police officer asked us if we wanted to press charges. We said yes. She was charged with assault, destruction of property, the Nintendo was a bit scratched, and attempted theft. Dad walked over, putting himself on mute so the others in the call couldn't hear him. He asked us what happened, and we gave him our story. He nodded and then apologized before returning to his call by the car. In the end, I decided to post this story on Reddit as my first encounter with an entitled parent. Hope you enjoyed. I will update more in case we have to go to court or something. Speaking of Mortal Kombat, what's your favorite video game of all time? Please let us know.
I prefer Animal Crossing myself.
You want to lose $100? Alright, sign here. I work in accounting, and my assistant is out on this particular day, so I'm working on invoicing. While doing invoicing, I come across a work order that has a higher expense amount than invoice's amount. Realizing we will be losing $100 on the job, instead of at least breaking even, I decide to question the project manager, Chad, about it. Me: hey, I noticed this job has an anomaly. Can you explain it to me? Chad: what are you talking about? Me: see the expenses? They reach a higher total than the amount you want me to bill for. I want to see if that was a mistake or… Chad: no, it's right. Me: if that's right, we're going to lose money on this job. You won't get commission. And Chad: I'm telling you it's right. Then Chad rips the papers from my hand. See, we charge a 20% markup right here. He points to the wrong spot and has the audacity to look smug. See, it's fine. Me: I calmly take the papers back and show him to two amounts side by side. I see that, but you didn't account for that over here for the billing amount. The total billing amount is less than that. Chad: look, it's right, and I don't have time to explain it to you. Just do it and stop bothering me. Me: no problem. Can you just initial here so when our boss asks me why this job is invoiced so low, I can… Sure, fine, whatever. He signs his name next to the billing amount. Now get out of my space. I go back to my office and invoice the too low amount. I sent it off, fully knowing this was going to backfire, and kept all backups and copies handy for when it did. Next Monday, I have the boss in my office. The invoice in question is in his hand. Boss: hey, you did this invoice wrong. Shows me the invoice. Me: actually, if you'll look at the backup, Chad told me that that was the invoice amount. I show him where Chad signed off. Boss: I'll be right back. He left my office. Roughly an hour later, I get called into the boss's office. Chad is there, looking uncomfortable, and my boss is on the phone. He waved me inside and I sat down. Boss: all right, we're all here. Now, Tandy Angie, please explain this to me. Me: I noticed that the expenses on this invoice were higher than the billing amount. Chad told me that the numbers were fine and to just do the invoice. Boss: hear that, Tex? Tex is the subcontractor we used on this job. Tex: yep. So what are we gonna do now? Boss: only thing to do is fire them. They're either incompetent or cheating us. Either way, it's bad for business. I am now very concerned for my job, but I sit silently. I know I don't have the whole story yet. Tex: I reckon you're right. Good luck, and don't worry about the park job. I got an opening up tomorrow I can squeeze in. Boss: thanks, Tex. He hangs up the phone and turns to Chad. Chad has gone from nervous to mad. Chad: it's not my fault she can't do her job. Boss: you signed your name right next to the wrong amount. Now you're either working with someone in accounting over in Tex's company to steal from me, or you're too stupid to work here. Which is it? Chad stands, as does my boss. I stood as well, not liking being the only person sitting. Chad says nothing. Boss: you're fired. Get your computer and leave. Boss turns to me. Go ahead and fill out the paperwork for his leave. Make sure to add that he attempted to embezzle money. I nod and leave. Chad stays there. As soon as I leave, the office explodes in screaming. I stayed in my office doing the paperwork my boss asked me to fill out. I saw Chad leave later with his stuff thrown into his bag. That was the last time I saw Chad. A friend saw him working at a cash register at a buffet place about a month later. Turns out, both my boss and Tex had agreed to lower their markups for the job, so the invoice number was still too high, not too low. But I didn't know that until after the fact, when my boss had me redo the paperwork for the entire job. Someone from accounting in Tex's company had altered the invoice sent to Chad, and they were planning on splitting the difference after we paid the altered bill. Have you ever worked with someone you just didn't trust? And if so, why not? Please let us know.
I've worked with you every day for almost 2 years and I still don't trust you. Your head is just too big.
Am I the jerk for forcing my son to pay back his child support? All names are fake. My wife and I have 2 kids. Our oldest is Josh. He just started his 2nd year in college. Full disclosure, I'm not Josh's biological dad, but I've been married to his mom since he was 8. He's my son in all but blood. Josh has a full-ride scholarship at his college. His mom and I are very proud, and he has ambitions for law school after graduation. A few months ago, we were contacted by Tina, a girl who claimed to have had a baby boy with Josh. The baby is a little under 18 months old. Tina said Josh had ghosted her and blocked her on all platforms. She'd been trying to get back in touch with him, but when that didn't work, she began to look for his parents to contact. She finally found us and begged us to get Josh to talk to her. We were skeptical at first. He said he knew the girl, but denied the baby. We insisted on a paternity test, 2 of them, and they were positive. Tina has gone through the courts and now is pushing for back child support for the baby. Josh is panicking. He doesn't have much income or savings other than a college fund his mom and I have been paying into. He wanted to use that money for his first apartment and for law school. My wife wants to help him pay. The payments aren't much now, but we could afford to. But I'm against it. We, wife and I, agreed that our kids would be responsible for themselves once they moved out. We'd help them if they needed it, but only if it was reasonable. To me, paying his child support for a baby he tried to abandon is unreasonable. He has the money in his fund, he just doesn't want to use it. Josh is afraid of not being able to afford law school without big loans in the future. And to that, I say tough. Should have thought of that before bringing a child into the world. My wife thinks I'm unfairly punishing him, and paying the support now would be investing in both the baby and Josh's future. I have no interest in taking care of an infant again this late in life. I'm fine with being grandpa, but not stand-in dad while Josh gets off scot-free. He needs to step up and take care of his kid. Edited to add. I suddenly have a flood of responses to read. I can't find the info posts I meant to reply to, so I will address some questions here. Tina, according to her, tried to get into contact with Josh while she was pregnant. He denied the baby was his and ignored her. They weren't dating. She attends community college, not his university. She has evidence of multiple attempts to contact him both before and after the baby was born. Well, what do you think? Is OP a jerk or not? Please let us know.
OP's not, but Josh sure is. Few things irk me more than people like him.
Hard hat and reflective vest is apparently the new dress code for fast food employees. This happened a few hours ago. A week ago, a construction company I occasionally work for got a contract to repair a bridge over an exit of a highway. They contacted me to be nurse on site for the crew. We started Monday and quickly found out that for coffee and lunch, someone would have to go 3 kilometers away to the nearest rest stop where a cafe and the Golden Arches are. Usually, either me or the foreman would go during the break with all the orders. Today, it was my turn. We had to break early because the crew had to work near a high-voltage pylon and we were waiting for the power company. So I take everyone's order, jump in my car, and drive to the rest stop. Due to force of habit, I'm still wearing my reflective vest with first aid with black letters on the back and have my hard hat with me. And I took my hard hat with me, again from force of habit. As I'm waiting for the line of the Golden Arches, the foreman calls me to say there was a mix-up with the paperwork for temporarily cutting power from the pylon, so we were shutting down for the day. They couldn't work around the pylon because it was on the final part to repair. So the orders are canceled, but I decide to grab a coffee and relax a bit before heading home. I grab my coffee from the cafe and head to the outside tables. In order to go to the patio, I have to pass from the fast food tables. And then, when I hear the dreaded neck clearing and a shrill voice saying, "Excuse me," I keep walking and I hear it again, louder this time, and a hand grabbing my arm. I turn around and look at her. She gets the hint and removes it. She's in her late 40s, early 50s, with the classic hair and haircut associated with Karens, but with a bad red dye job, expensive trashy clothes, big sunglasses, and, thank God, a mask. She stands around 5'2" to 5'3". I, on the other hand, am 6'3", wearing a blue polo shirt, jeans, safety boots, a Bluetooth earpiece, my vest, and the hat on a clip on my belt. The Arches employee wear red polos with the emblem in gold on the left side, while the cafe's employees wear black pants, white shirts, and brown aprons. We've got me, we've got Karen, we've got the manager and the foreman. Karen:
"Where is my order?"
Me: "I honestly have no idea."
"What? I placed it 10 minutes ago."
She's starting to get angry. Me: "Sorry, but I don't work here." And I try to leave. She grabs my arm again. I turn around and I'm getting a bit angry.
"I demand you bring me my order."
She's still grabbing me. Me: "Remove your hand." I reply with anger slipping in my voice. She complies and I walk away. Karen follows me outside.
This is no way to treat a customer,
She shouts.
I demand to speak with your manager.
Me. I already told you, I don't work here.
Oh, will she agree with that?
She says and starts yelling.
Manager! Manager!
Well, speak of the devil and he will appear. The manager of Mickey D's steps outside to see what the commotion is all about. At the same time, the foreman had the same idea as me and had just stepped onto the patio. He sees what's happening and makes a beeline to me. He asks what's happened. The manager is trying to calm Karen down to no avail. Karen,
I demand you to fire him,
she screamed, pointing at me.
He was rude and declined to help me.
The manager looks at me, my clothes, and back at Karen. Manager, Madam, he does not work here. He has a safety vest and a hard hat, which are not part of our dress code. He's just a client like you. Foreman, and he makes much better burgers than this joint, my foreman adds, making 3 of us laugh. Karen looked at us, then at the manager, and then stomped off. The foreman got a coffee and we chilled for a bit before heading home. So, another day, another I don't work here. First for the month. Speaking of McDonald's, what was the last thing you got from McDonald's? Please let us know.
I had those spicy nuggets recently. They were really good.
Am I the jerk for telling my brother that his wife ruined her own and his life? Today I went with my brother, I'll call him Sam, to visit his wife, I'll call her Amanda, in prison. Why she's in there is a long story. Basically, Sam and Amanda are very different people. He's quite a simple man. He's got an okay job, welder, which he enjoys and isn't particularly ambitious. He enjoys just having fun with his family. They have a 4-year-old daughter, Lexi. He's basically a giant child himself and loves just running around and being silly and making Lexi laugh. He's a hopeless romantic who doesn't care what kind of life he lives so long as it's with Amanda and Lexi. Amanda is the total opposite. She's a very ambitious and competitive person. She works at a senior executive role at a big company and loves it. She loves the finer things in life. She's got a huge collection of gorgeous clothes, shoes, bags, etc., and always dresses beautifully. Opposites attract in their case, but it's good because they've always brought out the best and stopped the worst in each other. She stops him from treating everything as fun and games and reminds him to have some ambitions like fitness, etc. He stops her from getting too ambitious and competitive and gives her a lot of support with work stress. I won't say exactly what Amanda did to get sent to prison. All I will say is that she did go too far in her attempt to reach a goal and crossed a boundary into something illegal. As Amanda was by far the higher earner, they've lost quite a big chunk of income since her employment was terminated. They've still got more than enough money saved up, and Sam is on a decent salary. The prison she's in is a 3-hour drive from where they live, but he tries to take Lexi to see Amanda as much as possible. When I saw her in prison, I barely recognized her. She's a shell of the person I knew. Obviously, her career is destroyed, and she has no idea what to do when she gets out. This is the first time I've seen her since she got locked up, and she was crying her eyes out. Sam was crying with her and hugging her and promising his sweetheart that all would be well. Obviously, I held her hands and told her it would all be okay, but when we left and were in the car going home, I told Sam I didn't feel sorry for his wife at all. She chose to do people over to get what she wanted. She had a great job, a husband who adored her, and a beautiful kid. But that wasn't enough for her. She still wanted more and committed crimes to get it, and that has ruined their lives. Sam was enraged. He dropped me off at home and told me that he doesn't want to hear from me at all unless I apologize. My husband thinks I should, because he's still hurting and misses her. I don't think what I said was wrong. Sam needs to accept his wife's own role and where she's ended up. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk or not? Please let us know.
I definitely don't think this was the time and place for that discussion. But what do I know? I'm just a Karen.
Am I the jerk for trying to force my stepson to move out of his bedroom so my daughter can move in? I have a daughter and a stepson, who I will call Carly and Kyle. Carly is 15, Kyle is 18. They have never been particularly close. Kyle tends to avoid myself and Carly like the plague. He hasn't bothered even trying to build a relationship with us. I've been with Kyle's dad since the kids were 10 and 13. Due to some personal troubles, which I'll not go into detail about, Kyle stays with his dad, though his mother will visit fairly regularly, and they are in constant contact. She, of course, believes me to be the jerk in this situation. Kyle has stayed in the attic since I knew him. His parents had the attic converted into a proper bedroom for him when he was around 9 or 10. It's an absolutely stunning room. plenty of space, nice furniture, and it's currently inhabited by several dressmaking dummies as he is studying fashion at university. Lately, Carly has asked me if she can stay with me full-time. She and her dad are just not getting on, and she'd prefer living with me. Her dad is absolutely fine with this, as he was never really good with her in the first place. This means that the majority of Carly's things will be at our place. She has a lot more things than Kyle and would most likely need more space. That's why I thought it would be a better idea to have Kyle move into Carly's slightly smaller bedroom downstairs, and Carly can move into the attic bedroom. I even offered to pay for whatever Kyle wants for his new bedroom, regarding wallpaper, paint, posters, etc., as I know it's a bit of a change for him. Kyle is not a fan of the idea and has been complaining about how he needs the space to work on his uni projects. I told him that he is more than welcome to use the dining room, as we rarely ever use it, and we can clean out one of the storage cupboards to store the dummies in. Kyle's partner is also not a fan of this, though I am almost 100% sure that this is just because in the attic room, they can do whatever they want to without interruption. I think that Kyle is being a bit overdramatic about this, as I'm not kicking him out into the street, just into a smaller bedroom, which I have offered to decorate for him. His father is not completely sold on the idea, but is slowly coming around. He also thinks that Kyle is being a bit dramatic regarding the room situation. Kyle's mother and girlfriend, and of course Kyle himself, all think that I'm being the jerk. Am I the jerk? Edit. The people who are bringing up Kyle paying rent, he pays us £100 per month. He wanted to start paying rent to help his dad out. We did not force him, and we will be expecting Carly to start paying rent when she's old enough too, so that Kyle is not singled out. Yes, Kyle's dad did cheat on his ex with me. His ex-wife was in a bad place, and it put a lot of stress on Kyle's dad. I had not long divorced my husband, Carly's dad, and was in a bad place. We got drunk and did something stupid. Neither of us intended for it to turn into anything more, but it did. I regret my comment about how Kyle's mom should have got her crap together. I was a bit stressed when I wrote that. Finally, you'll all be very glad to know that I'm not pushing the subject any further. Kyle can keep his room. I'll just tell Carly that she's going to get rid of her belongings. Thank you. Second and last edit. I was stressed when I wrote about making Carly get rid of her things. She's going to put her things in the storage cupboard in the dining room. I wouldn't make my kid throw her things away. I was just angry. Kyle is keeping his bedroom. Carly is making do with a smaller bedroom. She has also found the thread and is upset with the amount of hate she's getting in the comments. Does it make you lot feel good to make her cry? You guys can call me whatever you want. I might even deserve it. But my daughter has done nothing wrong, though I'll be sure to let Kyle know that you lot have deemed him Mr. Perfect. I'm 30 male. My wife, who's 31, doesn't appreciate my bees. I'm considering divorce. What should I do? I work mainly in accounting and personal finance advice, while my wife is a math teacher at our local high school. Recently, I've been researching and preparing to start a bee colony, as I've been interested in bees for a long time, and I've recently reached a place financially where we can not only pay our bills, but also have bees. Before I did anything, I spoke with my wife about my research and planned to get the bees. At first, she had some apprehensions, but we talked through them. Once we were both on the same page, I found an artificial beehive, and I contacted a professional beekeeper to help with the bee process, and so I began my bee journey. A week or two later, my wife comes home while I'm making dinner and tells me that she invited a few of her work friends over. They're all 31 female, for dinner tomorrow. I say that's fine, and I continue making dinner until she requests that I move my beehive. The exchange went something like this. Wife: while I clean the house, would you mind moving your hive? It's an eyesore. Me: I'm sorry, but what do you mean, eyesore? It's outside and has plenty of distance between itself and the house. Wife: I know, but I want it further back. It just doesn't match the house, and I don't want my work friends thinking I let this house go into chaos when I'm not around. At this point, I had finished dinner, and I was setting up the table when I asked her, why is this an issue now? Didn't we agree on the placement before I even got the hive? And besides, it's hard to move a hive once it's placed. Where were you thinking of moving it to? She responded that she didn't care, she just didn't want to see it. After that, we sat down for dinner, and I asked again where she wanted me to move the hive, stating that the closest forest wasn't on our property, and the second option would be back by the back porch. My wife repeated her answer, that she didn't care, she just didn't want to see it, and we continued on as normal. We ate, we cleaned the house in preparation, did our respective nighttime routines, then we went to bed. The next day, my wife and I wake up around 5 a.m., do our morning routines, eat breakfast, and head to work. Around 4, my wife calls me while I'm still at work. The high school gets done around 3. I excuse myself from a conversation I was having with a coworker and I go to a quiet corner of the break room. I pick up and my wife starts screaming at me that I didn't move the hive and now her work friends have to see my hideous beehive. I try and get her to calm down by apologizing and saying I forgot and that I can drive over and move it quickly. My wife cuts me off and says it's too late and she'll do it herself before she hangs up. I'm standing in the break room, confused and angry, so I try and focus on my work and deal with it later. I get home that night to my wife sitting at the table reading her book. She welcomes me home and I ask about her day. She says, "It was good, a little stressful, but nothing I couldn't handle." I then decide to bite the bullet and ask about the hive and how she handled it. Wife, "Oh yeah, your bees, I almost forgot. It was hard moving the beehive because the bees kept stinging me. So when I tried to set it down, it fell and broke. So I left it there because it is your hive after all." Me, "You broke my hive? How long has it been sitting like that?" Wife, "It's been like that since I called you." I looked out the window to see my hive laying on the ground. Parts of the walls were broken, as well as the legs and other crucial parts of the hive. When I took a step outside to get a closer look, I saw my bees flying around, unsure of where to go. I called the beekeeper contact and asked for a description of the damage. When I told him, he said that there isn't much he can do, but he'll call a friend to try and fix the things they can. I thanked him, hung up the phone, and walked back inside feeling defeated. When I re-entered the house, I walked upstairs, not even glancing at my wife. I took a shower and cried. My dream of having a beehive of my own was gone, and there wasn't much I could do. When I got out of the shower, my wife was already in bed. I crawled in bed next to her, and I laid awake for hours, questioning our relationship, and if she really loves me, why didn't she leave the hive alone? I've been contemplating divorce as I realized that after she destroyed my hive, she has never once apologized, nor does she seem empathetic in the slightest. I tried asking for an apology, and all I got was,
"Why should I apologize for doing you a favor?"
I never asked for an apology since, and I'm wondering how I never noticed this behavior from her before, and I don't know what to do. Deep down, I still love her, but she can't understand why I'm so upset. What should I do? OP, it doesn't matter if it's an art piece, favorite coffee mug, vegetable garden, or bees. It's something you were passionate about and it made you happy. And she knew that, and she purposely destroyed it. Whether her dislike for your bees outweighed her care for what matters to you, or she did it to hurt you, I don't know. But neither is acceptable. I think you need to tell her how serious this is. Tell her you're contemplating divorce, and don't let her spin this into, "It's just a beehive." Nah, bro, she seems awful. Someone who loves you would never destroy the things you're passionate about. That's just gross. Buddy, she destroyed it on purpose. She didn't drop it. It wasn't accidental. She destroyed it on purpose. I'd be more than thinking about divorce. I'd be on my way to get the ball rolling. My wife left me after she got in shape, and now she wants to get back together with me. I, 32 male, was married to my wife, 33 female, for 4 years, and we had a great marriage so far. I was madly in love with my wife. She fell into depression mainly due to her job in 2022. I tried to support her in every way and suggested her going to the gym or doing any kind of sports to de-stress. I had my own depression episode before we got married, and what saved me was going to the gym. She agreed to that, and we started going there together. I could not go as frequent as in the past since my workload got heavier after my promotion. However, I tried my best to be there with her. She used to be a bit overweight, and after seeing some changes with herself, she started to go regularly. It also helped with her depression, and she got better. I was really happy to see her feeling better. She looked more confident, got more aggressive, and so on. However, after a while, that confidence started to affect our relationship for worse. She started going to the parties and going outside to a point she completely stopped doing her share in the house. Then I saw her starting to get flirty with a guy at a meetup we went to. I communicated my feelings to her and she dismissed it. After several of these, I had her sit down with me and told her that she's riding high on her newly found confidence and emotions right now. I clearly stated she should not make decisions or actions according to that confidence right now. I know it well. It was one of my worst traits. I used to be extremely emotionally driven in the past. I suggested we go to a marriage counselor and all heck broke loose. She said vile things to me, like realizing that she had settled for me, and after getting better, she realized she could do much better than me. She said I'm insecure, among other things. This woman used to be the sweetest person on the earth, and I was shocked after hearing these things she said to me. She filed for divorce the following month, and I didn't hear much from her other than through our lawyers. Our court hearing is scheduled to be next month, and my lawyer told me there's a high chance it'll be concluded then. There's not much to share. Similar income, only shared asset is our joint account, similar savings, and no kids. House is my mom's, so it's out of division. I accepted my marriage is going to end like that. Last week, she called crying and told me she regrets everything. She apologized over and over again, but I felt disappointed. Not angry, not sad, just disappointed. She did not text me or call me even once since the divorce started. I did not even know where she was since she had just left home. I told her there's no going back now. She's been messaging me nonstop. My family supports my decision and tells me that I shouldn't back down. My in-laws were shocked when they heard about the divorce. They're now telling me to rethink everything. I will 99.9% not back down, but as I said, just looking for validation and maybe wanted to vent. It didn't work out with the new guy, so now she's falling back to plan B, aka you. He most likely wooed her with lies and is now showing his true colors. Continue with the divorce and cut her off. For what it's worth, I don't think you'll find a person who would disagree with your decision. I wouldn't say the in-laws have your best interests in mind. I've lost almost 80 pounds this year since I've had heart problems. I decided I wanted to live, so I started to go to the gym every day. I've turned my health around and I look better and better every day. Lots of men in the gym notice me now. I get hit on and even had an older man try to kiss me. My husband loved me when I was over 300 pounds and he stayed. He stayed beside me at my worst and he definitely deserves me at my best. He isn't doing his best right now. As long as he's treating me well, I'm gonna stand by him, just like he did for me. He helped love me back to life. Now it's my turn to do the same. Am I the jerk for accusing my husband of treating me like the hired help instead of his wife in front of his family? I, 34 female, have been married to my husband for 4 years, together for 7.5 years, and we have 2 kids who are 2.5 and 5 months. My husband was married before we met. He and his ex-wife separated during her pregnancy with our daughter, who's 13, and divorced after she turned 1. To my stepdaughter, I'm Dad's wife. I'm okay with that. We get along fine mostly. She does struggle to be left with me in charge. My husband knows this. We've discussed this at length. We've worked together to figure out solutions. We even talked with his ex, who's okay with me being around her daughter. I know some aren't, but did not like the idea of her daughter being with me if she could be with her, and generally didn't love that I would be in the parent role with her kid. She has a very big dislike of the idea of step-parents becoming just parents, and she's never wanted her daughter to view me as any kind of mother figure. So discussions were had and agreements were made. On to our issue. My husband always has a very busy period of work in June and July, and he's basically just come home to sleep and nothing else. In June, his ex is having surgery and will be out of commission and in the hospital for some time. The ex's surgery was not mentioned to me at all, but Saturday night, while we were at my in-laws' house, my husband started venting about his ex's surgery and her not wanting their daughter to be in my care all day long, and his daughter not wanting to have me in charge of her that much, and how he told them I would be doing it, and nothing they said or did would change this. He was upset with his ex and his daughter, a little for having such a dislike for me being in charge, even though we get along fine. I asked him when all this happened, and he said it had been a few days. He told me she would be with us from June 6th until July 4th, and possibly longer. That he was already told he will need to work most Saturdays in June and July. So he told me I'd need to figure out how to best deal with that. I asked him why he sprung this on me in front of his family instead of discussing it privately. He waved me off and said he knew I wouldn't say no because I love my stepdaughter and I understand that she needs to be with an adult. He saw an expression on my face and told me I couldn't be upset about it when I know my stepdaughter is still a kid. I told him I wasn't upset at her, I was upset at him. He told me he can't help his ex and his daughter being somewhat unreasonable. Mother-in-law chimed in and offered to take my stepdaughter during the daytime for June. He told her I would handle it. She should be with us. This is when I accused him of treating me like the hired help and not his wife because he wasn't discussing it with me and was making decisions for me without asking or discussing things through. It was afterward he told me I shouldn't speak to him like that in front of his family. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. His ego is wounded, you dare say anything, but you're entirely right. You've told him it should have been discussed privately. He brought this to the family, not you. Also, if mother-in-law wants to help out, Why isn't he on board? He sounds controlling. Not the jerk. He brought it up in front of his family because he thought if he did that, you'd have no choice but to go along with it. He gambled and lost. This is a custody issue. Your first step is your husband and his ex figuring out options of who will care for their daughter while her mom recovers from surgery. If they agree she should come to your house, the next step is asking if you're okay with that. Having your stepdaughter for a month is a big ask when you'll basically be on your own as he'll be working, and even more when the ex and the stepdaughter don't even want you in charge during that time. Your husband is telling you that you shouldn't speak to him like that in front of his family. It's pretty rich given how he was speaking to you. Not the jerk. He's treating you as a babysitter for his daughter rather than his wife. Guess that's what you signed up for when you married a man who has a kid. Property management tells me not to fix anything. Okay. Back in the 2008 housing crisis, I did some work on the side for a customer's computer system. We got to talking, and he had a cheap one-bedroom duplex for rent that was too good to be true. It was a detached garage converted into a one-bedroom little apartment, and it was as plain and basic as they come. The actual house was being rented out, and he was charging the full amount priced for the area, which was high, so the little garage conversion was pure profit for the landlord. I signed a lease for a fixed price that was almost half of what the going rate was for a one-bedroom apartment in the area. It was no frills, plain as can be with the cheapest appliances and amenities possible. Light fixtures from the early 80s, cheapest faucets and countertops money could buy. You get the visual. The elderly landlord and I had an arrangement. I could fix it up so long as I could keep the rent low, and he would allow me to pay for the remaining balance on upgrades if or when things broke. Years go by, and I'm still in this one-bedroom garage conversion and making progress on updating the features. Kitchen faucet is gone, new fancy sprayer head faucet with a bar-style glass cleaner installed. Old toilet replaced with a water-saving tank and bidet installed. 80s lights are gone. LED smart home fixtures installed. Around 7 to 8 years go by, and my rent is still half of the normal going rate for the area, and my landlord is happy with our arrangement. Sadly, he has a heart attack, and surgery saves his life. He's no longer able to maintain his active lifestyle and hands the reins of being a landlord to a property management company. This company is as shady and money-hungry as they come. They get a percentage of the monthly rent for their role in taking over the landlord's duties. They immediately hate me and my rental agreement from the start. The month they take over, my rent goes up the maximum limit of 10% plus 5% the cost of living increase for 1 year. I'm not happy with this, as this is a significant bump in my costs. I suck it up, but as a silent protest, I stopped making upgrades to the house that first year. Then, 12 months later exactly, I get a notification that my rent will increase another 10%, plus 5% cost of living increase. This is yet another blow to my finances, but I can't really complain, as my rent is still well below the average cost for the area. Another 12 months and another 10%, plus 5% cost of living followed by another the following year. The whole time I had been saving a good portion of my paychecks as a down payment for a house, but these rent hikes were hurting my ability to set aside money for this purpose. My landlord was not happy with the property management company he hired, but couldn't get out of his contract because they were doing maintenance and facility repairs like clockwork. Lockdown hits, and I had been in this place for 12 years by this point. My rent was still under the average for the area, but not by much. Seeing as this was now just a crappy one-bedroom apartment, I was looking for houses to buy to get me out of this rent-gouging arrangement I was in. Right at the peak of lockdown in 2020, a pipe burst in the kitchen and floods the floors, ruining the crappy cabinets, the carpets, and the furniture I had nearby. I had renter's insurance that covered most of the cost to what I had lost. Not the nicest furniture, but my couch was a total loss. My desk, entertainment center, and my speaker were severely damaged. In comes property management to assess the repairs and gut out the damaged wood and carpets. I offer to pay for the upgraded wood and countertops as well as request hardwood floors. Nope, they deny my requests. I offer to do the work myself as I'm fairly handy. Again, denied with an actual written letter stating I'm not to do any work or maintenance on the apartment. I contact my landlord who has his hands tied because this was the arrangement we had. I'm at a loss of what to do because this property management company is not setting me up with a temporary place to live, doing all the work while I'm working from home to watch my possessions. There's a literal door-sized hole in my wall as they spend 2 weeks fixing all the damage. They throw out my upgraded faucet, which was undamaged and worked perfectly fine, the upgraded sink, the light fixtures, the tile work I had done, the bathroom faucet, which wasn't even part of the floor damage. They then removed an outlet originally part of the apartment to save on costs. I was upset at them and complained via letters, via phone calls, and talking to the maintenance supervisor. It took 2 full months to do all the repairs, and at the end, they sent me a notice that my rent was going up due to some loophole in the neglect the apartment was in and not reported. I was done with this BS, and I pooled my resources, called in all the favors I could, and found the house I wanted. I gave 30-day notice to leave at the end of my lease, along with an invoice of all the repairs I made to the apartment over the 12 years I was there. I attached a copy of my original lease agreement, a copy of all photos I took before and after repairs I made, a bill of the costs, and a request of a refund of the past 6 months of additional rent hike due to neglect, like they stated in the letter. I had a running tally of all the receipts, work performed, and the cost of not being allowed to live in motels during the work being performed to over $9,700. At the same time, I submitted all this to the courts, as I knew they would contest all of it. My landlord was on my side during the court hearing, giving testimony he in fact allowed me in the rental lease agreement that I could do my own repairs. I won within 4 hours and was awarded $4,700. The judge was harsh to the lawyer for the property management, saying his client must obey the law and put a tenant up for housing during construction. Nearly 4 years later, I finally got my lump sum, including penalties and late fees, which totaled up to $7,500. Sadly, my old landlord passed away, and his properties passed to his son, who immediately fired the property management company sometime early last year. Am I the jerk for not wanting my sister and her kids to move back into our family home? About a year ago, my mother suffered a health crisis, and as a result, I, 28 male, moved back in with her in order to take care of her. She still has some independence, but I drive her to and from doctors, go shopping for her, help with cleaning, etc. She can wash herself, walk around the house, etc., but not much more than that. My father passed a few years back, and up until I moved back in, she has been living on her own. Very recently, my sister, who's 30, and her husband, who's also 30, have separated on bad terms. Don't want to go into details, but it's a fairly hostile situation. My sister has 2 kids who are 1 and 4, and as a result hasn't worked in quite some time. Now she's in the process of trying to find a job, but with kids that is difficult. Because of this, my mother suggested that she should move back in so she could look after the kids. I'm strongly against this. I feel for my sister, but my mother can't even really look after herself anymore, let alone provide childcare for 2 kids. If she moved in, her kids would definitely become my responsibility, even though they both deny that, and I can't and don't want to add that to my plate. My sister and mother also argued that she could help with taking care of my mom, but honestly, she wouldn't be much help, and it certainly wouldn't make up for the added burden of having an infant and a small kid in the house. The house is big enough in terms of rooms for her to move in without a problem, but the fact that all the caretaking duties would inevitably fall onto me is what's making me want to put my foot down. I feel like a complete jerk, but I've considered telling my mother that if my sister moves in, I will move out. I'm getting a lot of repeat questions, so I've decided to answer them here because I realize my responses will get lost in the comments. 1. Yes, I work full-time. I'm a pathology resident. I pay for my own expenses and most of my mother's as well. I do not pay rent because my mother owns the house, but I do pay for electricity, water, heating, groceries, gas, and any out-of-pocket expenses at the doctor's. My mom has a small monthly pension that isn't able to cover her costs anymore due to the increase in medical costs, and inflation isn't exactly helping either. 2. The reason why I don't think my sister will be able to look after her own kids or help with our mom is because the whole point of her moving in is so that she can get help with childcare and go get a job. If she were able to work and provide for her kids on her own, she wouldn't need to be moving in the first place. 3. My sister is not escaping a mistreating relationship. I said hostile to indicate that they were on bad terms and not speaking to each other. But she wasn't being mistreated and she isn't fleeing from him. If she were, that would be a totally different situation. She currently lives alone with her kids in their apartment, co-owned by her and her husband, and he's paying for the utility costs as of right now. Not the jerk. I feel for your mom and your sister, but you can't set yourself on fire to keep others warm. If your sister can't even look after herself, the responsibilities of caring for her and her kids will absolutely fall on you, which is a huge burden for you when you're presumably already pretty overstretched being a young working adult and a carer. Unfortunately, it's your mom's decision who moves into her house at the end of the day. My suggestion would be to move out if she moves in, but consider bringing in a carer for your mom. If your sister does indeed move in and you move out, the risk is that your mom may be neglected, so the carer will ensure her safety. While your suggestion looks appealing on paper, you do realize that mom and sister will expect the caregiver to look after the kids, not mom, and that will cause issues all on its own depending on where they are. A professional medical aid/home health aide has a strict list of duties they will and will not perform. If the aide mentions to their agency that the client is expecting childcare, the aide won't be sent back to that client. Of course, if they hire a random person with no training off of Craigslist or something, that would be different. Am I the jerk for flipping out on my mother-in-law and husband for eating all the food before I had eaten? Ever since I gave birth 4 months ago, so I have 4 kids total, my mother-in-law has been showing up whenever she wants, and when she's here, she's always helping herself to whatever she wants. She's never offered to help me or the baby in any way, shape, or form. She's basically here to see her son, and that's it. Like about 3 weeks ago, I made a small pot of coffee, enough for 2 cups. I went to go nurse the baby while waiting, and at some point, my mother-in-law shows up, lets herself inside. When I came out, she had drank the entire pot. I had no coffee grounds left, or she's eaten my leftovers straight out of the fridge multiple times, and she's always like, "Thanks for the food and the coffee," as if I offered it to her when I absolutely didn't, because all she's doing is making my life miserable. I told my husband to speak to her about it, and he told me he did, but I truly don't think so. I spoke up the last time she was here, 3 weeks ago, and told her she needed to stop helping herself because she's eating and drinking stuff that I wanted and or made for myself. She said, "Oh, I'm sorry," and then stopped coming around for a while. Well, today I made 4 homemade pizzas. I told the kids to come help themselves to dinner and that I had to go get the baby down for a nap real quick, and I would be right back. Well, it took me about 45 minutes because the baby was fussy. I came back out and all the pizza was gone, and my mother-in-law and husband are sitting there chowing away. I just said, "Are you kidding me right now?" My husband asked what was going on, and I said, "You guys couldn't even save me 1 slice? Sure, let's feed the neighborhood before I even get to eat. That's so awesome of you guys. Thanks." And I start to walk off. My oldest son, who's 13, comes in and he's like, "Mom, I left you a plate. I put it right on the counter," and walks over to grab it, and lo and behold, that's gone too. Mother-in-law said, "I thought it was left over from dinner." So my son's apologizing to me, even though he did nothing wrong, but my mother-in-law and husband just stand there. They literally aren't saying anything. So I looked at both of them and said, "You both need to leave, now." My husband then decides to speak, saying that it was an honest mistake and that no one meant any harm, and said I was making a mound out of a molehill, which honestly just upset me even further. So I snapped again and said, "Yeah, except every time your mother comes here, I end up going without because she eats or drinks my portion of everything. But sure, let's defend someone taking food out of my mouth, shall we?" His mother just storms out of the house, and my husband looks at me like I'm insane. So I say, "Quick, chase her," and walk out. My husband thinks I'm mental and that this all could have been resolved if I had acted like an adult. He won't come home, but at this point, I don't even want him to come home because it means his mother will stay away. Stop cooking anything for your husband and change the locks so his mommy can't keep walking in without you letting her. Your kids recognize how you're being treated. Not the jerk. They are both infuriating. What husband is okay with his wife going hungry, especially when she needs strength and nourishment to raise his kids? He's a disgrace. Change the locks and file for divorce, not the jerk. You can't just lock someone out of their own home, especially not for eating your pizza. Am I the jerk for stopping my parents from paying for my sister's IVF and telling her she can't afford to have a kid? I'm 23, male. My sister is 28, female. She's married to her husband, who's 30, for the past 6 years. My sister has been trying to have a baby for about 3 years now without success. 18 months ago, she and her husband came to my parents and asked if we would finance an IVF treatment. My parents have some savings separate from retirement and agreed to pay for it, and I even pitched in a few $100s to show my support, even though I didn't have a lot of savings, having just started work after graduation. Unfortunately, the IVF failed. Yesterday, my sister and brother-in-law came over again for dinner. Afterwards, my sister said she wanted to try another round of IVF and asked my parents if they would pay for it again. I could tell my parents looked hesitant, but they agreed because my sister was crying. At this point, I stood up and said it's not right for her to ask again for our parents' money for something that didn't work before and may not work again. We argued a bit, And I admit that things got heated and we had a big fight. She yelled at me that it was none of my business. I told her if she can't pay for the IVF, then she needs to accept that she can't afford a kid. She told me to get out, but I refused. My parents were trying to calm us down. My mom started telling me that it's not my money, to which I replied that it's basically a gift to one kid and not the other, and that it was only fair that I be given a similar amount of money as to what they would spend on my sister. My sister started complaining that it's not a gift, it's a treatment for a medical condition, and if I'd expect payment if she had cancer and my parents paid for chemo. I told her not being able to have a kid poses no threat to her life the way that cancer would, and it's a completely disingenuous comparison. My dad finally stood up and yelled at both of us to shut up and sit down. Then he told my sister that they already paid for one, and I had a point that contributing to pay for it would be unfair. He said he's very sorry for what she's going through, but they need to accept things how they are. My sister started crying again, and her husband, who had been quiet and looking uncomfortable the whole time, took her and left. Today, my sister sent me some texts calling me a jerk for sticking my nose in her business and keeping her from having a baby. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. The way you said it was harsh, bordering on jerk territory. But your parents were about to just hand over tens of thousands of dollars that they probably need for their retirement years because your sister was crying. Your sister is only 28. There's time for her and her husband to save the money to have IVF again in a few years, or they can ask other family or friends to chip in. But you did the right thing to help safeguard your parents' retirement needs. Yes, why don't they hit up hubby's family? And since OP chipped in the first round, I feel it is his business. He contributed to essentially a business transaction that failed. He hasn't even asked his sister for that money back. I get they want a kid of their own. She wants the whole pregnancy experience, but maybe they should consider adopting. A. They did, and his parents said no. Or B. He knows they'd never say yes, so OP's parents are an easier target. It sounds like OP's dad wasn't thrilled about paying again, but maybe didn't want to say no in the moment when faced by a crying daughter and potentially upset wife. I'd be surprised if he didn't pull the plug further down the line anyway. But OP needs to work on his delivery. The way he said it was like a jerk. No, they shouldn't consider adoption. Adoption isn't a magic get out of infertility free card. Adopted kids aren't consolation prizes for the infertile. Adoption is painful and messy and expensive, and people going that route need to be in it 100%. Just go adopt needs to stop. You're the jerk. It's not your money and it's not your business. You're acting entitled by not only inserting yourself into your parents' decision, but then acting as though they owe you whatever they give her. Parents don't provide kids equally the exact same things in life. They provide them what they each need if possible. In your defense, you are only 23. Your brain is not fully formed and it shows. Your parents should be telling you to sit down and mind your own business, and if you're lucky, not decreasing the amount you may one day inherit by the amount you're pitching a fit about it. If your parents can afford it, it's their decision and theirs alone. If they chose to wait for a while and let your sister try other ways, it's up to them. You don't explain their full situation, your sister and her husband. But either way, it's still not your decision to make. I agree, you're the jerk. This was a discussion between sister and parents, and the parents' decision alone. As my parents have always taught me, just ask. The worst they can do is say no. OP. If you felt that your parents were giving money out of guilt rather than actually wanting to, would you stay out of it? I don't want the money, but making the point about it being unfair let my dad decline the guilt trip. If they actually want to give the money, they can. I don't control their finances.
Do this next. Tap our video that just popped up on your screen. You won't believe what happens in that one.